Hello, Hemming Shark. Hold on, let me just turn off my phone because I'm receiving notifications. Hello. My chair is caught. Right. Hello, everyone. At least now we get into the more substantial parts. Oh wow, I'm early. Yeah, I literally just went live. Hello, everyone. You're so early that I haven't even finished my tea. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. I don't speak Arabic, just to clarify. How's your day going? My day is fine. I've been reading about the Great Replacement theory, so it's always exciting. But yeah, generally very fine. I went to the gym, all of these kind of things. Yeah, Hasan did DM me yesterday, but I was in bed and it was quite late. But hopefully, maybe there'll be something today, and if not that, well, then at some point in the near future. How's the audio, by the way, guys? Yeah, he did definitely hit me. Yeah. Hopefully. All right, Dylan. Hopefully I'll be on Hasan's stream. I'd like to be. Could only stomach the debate with your commentary. Glad to see the rest. Did Ethan ever reply to you? No, Ethan. The only reply I got from Ethan was him saying something about like me knowing nothing about Palestine or something. What did Hasan say? He said you were around last night, and so maybe it will be a chance. Maybe there'll be a chance for something to happen, but I don't know. I don't quite know. To be honest, I'm more excited because Chelsea are winning a game of football. So fingers crossed that Chelsea actually win against Liverpool. Be major. Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea, one of Chelsea's most racist champions, is playing football. My shirt is from Beam Me Up Soft Boy. A friend got it for me years ago, and it's just one of the few things that I had, and it just says, "Please tell me you've watched Pulp Fiction." And they got it for me because I used to have I still have it, a Pulp Fiction poster. I mean, I don't think it really matters whether I have a Middle East studies degree or not. I think Ethan is just an idiot. Congrats on iDubbbz. Oh, thank you. iDubbbz followed me a while ago. Although I decided I'm not gonna react to it. But by the way, iDubbbz video, some people said it was mostly friend content. It really wasn't very friendly, and I liked him. I did really enjoy the part when he was dancing along to "Thank you, Ethan Klein. You are my best friend. You are the rent payer." I'm a big fan of that song. Yeah, I mean, I'm well aware of how racist and Enzo Fernandez truly is. Hi from Iran. Salam Marzieh Alimardadi. But yeah, from what people were saying, I thought it was going to be much more like, I don't know, I thought it was going to be much more friend stuff, but there was a lot of reasonable stuff in there. Ethan didn't say much about me. Thank you, coffee lover. Brother, put that water down, get some coffee on me. It's actually a tea. I don't drink coffee. Bad Empanada did not write it. It's like this old song that goes like, "Thank you, USA, you are the rent payer," and Bad Empanada just put "Thank you, Ethan Klein" in it and changed the lyrics. I don't know how he did it. What do I think of Bad Empanada? I'll answer the other question. I think that sometimes Bad Empanada can do some things on the internet that I think, why are you doing that? And I understand his whole ethos of conducting himself, of basically being like, I don't know, horrible because so many other people are horrible on the internet is, kind of interesting. And a lot of leftists are interested in purity. But I also think that he genuinely does make really, really well-researched videos. Like, I think that he does. I think his video about, like, British colonialism in India is brilliant. It's about the genocide, isn't it? The famine genocide. And there were many others that I watched of his. Like, the Lebensraum one is one that I found interesting. The one about, like, Manifest Destiny to Lebensraum. Although I'd already read about that a lot. And a lot of the stuff he talks about is, a lot of the stuff he talks about is stuff that I was reading about anyway. So, and yeah, I mean, but then I think about like how, people like I think you think about how like Bengal famine. Thank you. You think of like how many other people conduct themselves on the internet. And then someone said, "Oh, you wanted a summarization of what I think about the debate." What do I think about the debate? I think that So I saw someone posting about it on the H3 Reddit that I skipped the rape part for like because I was like scared to talk about it, but that's not at all why I skipped it. I skipped it because it was Ethan being very ridiculous. I mean, I genuinely don't think Ethan actually cares that much about anti-Semitism. I think that he cares about it as a guise to attack people he doesn't like and to reduce confronting actual criticism. Because in this debate, by the way, all of the people who've allegedly been criticizing him, he agrees with them. But this is the problem. Ethan says that he agrees with the things that these people are saying, but he doesn't actually do it. He just does it to get away from actually confronting it. You know? When are you going on Hasan's stream? I don't know. Maybe today. It depends if he wants to. He might have changed his mind about what he wants to do today. But I would like to go on it today. I would like to go and talk to him. We've never actually spoken in anything beyond a couple of DMs. What's the best way to support your channel? I mean, just watching. I mean, my Buy Me a Coffee link's there. You can donate if you want to, but you don't have to. Don't feel obliged. Like, watching it and my content. And actually, someone said that they're surprised about how much I've blown up. And I suppose in some senses it's kind of not that surprising because Hasan watched my video live, and also, you know, I think one of the problems is by the way, like, I think I'm probably one of the most familiar people with this. TikTok's algorithm has in recent months become insane. There are some videos that I've posted on TikTok where I have 300,000 followers, right? Where I have 300,000 followers on TikTok, and some videos I would post on Instagram and Twitter would do better. Like, I posted one about Yahya Sinwar, which has like 150,000 likes on Instagram, and it's got like maybe, I don't know, 60,000 on TikTok. And I think that this is actually something to do with Trump's presidency, because during there's a video of Charlie Kirk saying that he worked with TikTok, and he said we told them, if you work with us, we'll make sure that we're like the most pro TikTok administration ever. And I think that was part of the trade-off. I think that, yeah, and I think that get some more tea on me. Thank you very much, coffee lover. But yeah, I don't even think it's shadow banning. I think the algorithm's punishing, and I think a lot of what TikTok demands of you is really reactionary content and repeating the same thing over and over again. And I kind of got tired of it, and I think that in many ways moving over to YouTube is probably the right decision, because I think I have capacity for it. And like pre-October the 7th, this is actually what I did on TikTok. I used to make like long form videos. I made like a 6-part series about Israel's invasion of Lebanon. And I used to like read a whole book about it. But yeah, like I just compare like the two of them, and I just think, And there's always been scope of like people supporting me and stuff, and all of these things. Yeah, like always there's been consistent support. Love Yahya Sinwar. Actually, yeah, he's not like, yeah, I mean, like, I think that the way he died was like particularly interesting in terms of like if you compare it to Israeli leaders and stuff. I don't know if I am going on Hasan. We haven't spoken to it. We haven't spoken today, but I think he's asleep or something. His interviews pre-release taught me a bit about how to interpret media. I don't know what I'm saying there. I remember your video about water distribution in the West Bank. Yeah, I mean, that was an OG video. That was the first time I ever got attacked by like a pro-Israel organization as well. The organization, like, I can't remember what it's called. Honest Reporting is what it's called. Honest Reporting made a video about me, and they were like, Chris is a liar and he's making this up, and it was just like, this is ridiculous, who's going to jail? I am very disappointed in Hasan. Do not push back on the expulsion point. I think when you're debating, there's always things that you wish you'd said. I mean, as I think about with my whole debate with Lonerbox, his whole argument was that I didn't know anything about what I was saying. That I didn't know what I was saying, that because I misquoted a couple of things and things like that. But obviously Lonerbox said that the Bibas children were strangled, and that's never been released, and then he removed me. So yeah, I mean, this is always the thing. You always think about all the things you have to say, and yeah. Oh yeah, I'm a model, if you know, you know. God, that was pre-October the 7th. That was, I remember my, can you show the water distribution? I don't even know where it would be. I don't even know when that was. It's not one of my more popular videos, so probably actually I can find it. Hold on. Sorry, it's got all my old privated videos on here from like when I was. If you want to see actually, no, I won't show it. God, some of these are so old. Here's a pre-October the 7th one.
Earlier this morning, there was a significant escalation of violence inflicted on the Palestinian people in the West Bank by the Israeli forces, and this was the utilization, as the picture shows, of an Apache attack helicopter to assault the Palestinians from the air, something that has not been done in the West Bank for over 2 decades. The background to the utilization of the attack helicopter was that earlier this morning, Israel entered Jenin ostensibly to capture 2
Yeah, Jenin, I
militants.
refer to it as, not Janine. That shows you how old that is. It was just like pre-October the 7th. I'll see if I can find the water one. There's a video about Vinicius Jr. and racial capitalism here. Some really interesting content. Jeremy Corbyn, Palestine and the Labour Files. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. I just found it and then I lost it.
Israel's subjugation of the Palestinian people is not just limited to when they attack places like the Jenin refugee camp. They also abuse the Palestinians every single day, and one of the ways that they do this is through water. This video is going to focus on the West Bank. However, the Gaza Strip does not also have access to clean water. Only 1 in 10 people there, in fact, actually have access. But there are 3 main water resources within the area. Now, the first is the coastal aquifer, the second is the mountain aquifer, which is underneath the West Bank, and the third is the Jordan River. All of these are under Israeli control, and because of this, access to water...
Look at what, this is, by the way, if you want to read about this, Neoliberal Apartheid by Andy Clarno is the best book about... It's really good because it's about like day-to-day oppression in the West Bank and also securitization and how Palestinians have basically become like a surplus population in Palestine. It's a really good book as well. I love it. Like, honestly, I haven't read it in a while. Right, no, so the reason I'm not wearing glasses is because, so I probably could, no, I can't actually. So God, my eyesight's getting worse. So basically, I don't wear glasses in these videos because I don't actually need them when I'm recording a video like this. I need videos when I'm looking at like a screen like this to read off it, but this was just me talking. So the reason I wear them in my YouTube videos is because I'm looking over at my like notes for what I talk about in the video, whereas these I make without a script, so that's kind of why like I never needed my glasses. But yeah, do I have Goodreads? I actually do have Goodreads. Hold on. If you wanted to see my Goodreads. People keep asking about this I don't know what my password is. Fucking hell. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I sign. No, I have never signed up with that. Hold on, let me just... Yeah. Here you go. Here's my Goodreads. I haven't updated my Goodreads in ages. Computer screens do also tend to be further from your faces. Indeed, yeah. Neoliberal Apartheid by Andy Clarno. South Africa and Palestine after 1994. That's it. Chris is the best contrary I've found in a long time. You're doing a service. Keep it up. Capitalism demands it. Thank you. Your dad lectures where? What, at Exeter? I mean, I studied at the University of Exeter's Arabic and Middle Eastern Studies department. So, if you're looking at... So, actually, I haven't actually been reading that much, like, shit like this. I've been reading more articles recently, just because of, like, for YouTube videos and stuff. I haven't been reading that many books. But, yeah, like, So this is a really good book, Penis Envy and Other Bad Feelings. The No State Solution is quite good. It's got some quite interesting parts in. The Question of Zion is okay. Firehouse is still knocking around, although it's declined even in the time I was there. The Sublime Object by Zizek is pretty good. It's a bit of a difficult read, I would say. The Work in the Art... These also aren't all my books. Red 32. So these are all books I would recommend. Hold on, I'll just go through some of them. On Palestine, obviously, the ethnic cleansing, the world turned inside out. I wouldn't actually recommend that much. I didn't like it. This book's way too hard to access and really hard to read. This book here, Preventing Palestine, is one of the most important books on Palestine that you can read. I haven't read it in a really long time. I actually need to reread it. I read it about 5 years ago when it came out, and I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this book. I would highly recommend that you read it. It's basically about how Israel has fucked over peace negotiations at every opportunity, and what's so good about it is it draws really intensely from the work of, for example, like it draws really intensely from their diaries and stuff. Is basically how it does it. Yeah, and the question of Zion's not that good. It's too Zionist. This is also a really good book, by the way. Justice Interrupted by Elizabeth Thompson has a great section on Ben Gvir. I didn't like it. Gives it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know. I need Chris to read me anti-Zionist books before bed. Yeah, I'll do a reading of Ilan Pape's books to everyone. What was I going to say? I can't remember which book you said I didn't like. 4 stars means I probably liked some of it, or I thought that there was interesting stuff. Any book recs on Lebanon? I think that one of the problem with Lebanon is that my friend said this. I was talking to him. I was like, oh, there's not much writing in English on the 2000 invasion of Lebanon, the 2000 withdrawal and the invasion in 2006 by Israel in English. Not that much scholarly work, at least. The only thing then, and what he said to me was, because it doesn't really involve the Palestinians, because Palestine is always the most spoken about topic, and one of the reasons for this is actually how Zionists portray Palestine, in the sense of they say that Palestine is is kind of like the center of Western civilization, and the destruction of it is not like is going to be the end of the world. But yeah, Briff, ratio plus L. Like, why are you posting this shit? I'll time you out. I'll time you out for 5 minutes. I hate live debate. Hold on. I hate live debates when people want to talk over each other. Me personally, I may act impulsively. Yeah, On Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. On Palestine isn't by Rashid Khalidi. It's by Ilan Pape, no? Non-Arabic nerd. Yeah, I shouldn't have learned Farsi. How do you think this conflict should be resolved? Well, I wouldn't call it a conflict. What I would call Palestine much more is settler colonialism. It's a settler colonial scenario. You'll know Lonerbox knows more about the history of the region than all of you. Like, you can dislike him, but he knows more for sure. I mean, Lonerbox tried to debunk an article from one of the most prominent theorists of settler colonialism, and Lonerbox's response, Lonerbox didn't know what settler colonialism was, and he couldn't have even been bothered to read a very, very short excerpt from one of Patrick Wolf's books. I have written a dissertation about settler colonialism in Palestine. I didn't get a good mark, but I also have written like a very, very high-marked dissertation about re-Orientalism. And so things like the Gulf states, things like the history of democracy, the interaction between democracy and Islam, there is no way that Lonerbox knows as much. Lonerbox is someone who wants to spend his time on the internet going like, Nelson Mandela actually said this. He's not serious. He does not know more. And even if he did, I wouldn't give a fuck, you know. Like, who cares? What was I going to say? Oh, and someone asked how it should be resolved. A singular state solution. A singular state solution is the only option. That's the truth of it. I think Zionism should have never... I think there should have never been an Israel established in the Middle East. I think from the beginning it was a mistake, and that the only option is to get rid of it as like an oppressive ethno-state and try and move towards something where people have equal rights and the Palestinian right of return as it legally should be is fulfilled, because Palestinians were the ones who inhabited that land and they deserve the right to return to where they're from, you know? Simple. Farsi is really different from... Farsi is very different from... Farsi is very different from Arabic in the sense of it's much simpler grammatically, in my understanding. But the thing with Farsi is it's so simple grammatically. It's so much more simple than English. A two-state is your best shot. The two-state solution died in the 1980s or 90s, really, once Israel began to settle all of it, because you have 600,000 extremist settlers who are never going to leave. They refuse to leave. And by the way, people always talk about like Arabs and Palestinians as like religious fanatics who are like mental. But like most Israelis believe that if they have a secular state that gives up land to the Palestinians, then it goes against like what God wants. So, you know, I mean, bit of a problem there. Farsi is more closely related to English than it is to Arabic. I don't know. Is it Indo-European? I can't remember. I speak a decent amount and I can read it, but I can't really speak it is the problem, because why I find it so hard to speak and why we always would struggle is because if you like, so Farsi when it's spoken removes all the vowels and stuff. So like miguyam means I say, but whereas when someone says I say to you, they go migam. I'm just being really realistic. Israel isn't going anywhere. You can have a two-state if you are lucky. Brilliant. I mean, yeah. Oh, actually, wait. There was a couple of things I wanted to watch before we started. Have any of you seen the video of Benjamin Netanyahu just, like, farting today? It's very bizarre. He posted, like, this 7-minute video and then forgot to edit himself out farting. Here you go, listen.
יש לזה טקטיקות שונות, אני לא יכול כמובן לפרט את זה כאן.
Very bizarre content from Benjamin Netanyahu today. I'm not sure why they decided to post that without editing it, because it wasn't like it was live or anything. So, pretty interesting content from him. You can watch it. Like, genuinely, he posted that on his Instagram. I have no idea why he did that. Poopy boy indeed. It is real. I 100% swear to you. I'll show you it. Wait, hold on. I've just spelt Benjamin Netanyahu so wrong. Benbajin. Look, right, here it is on his official Twitter account. I think it's here.
אבל אנחנו מתמקדים בשתי משימות. אחד, להחזיר את חטופינו. שתיים, להכריע את החמאס. לא יהיה שם חמאס, צריך להבין את זה. עכשיו יש לזה טקטיקות שונות, אני לא יכול כמובן...
There's no way it's anything else. Really, really, really bizarre. You know, it's really, really bizarre. I have no idea why the guy posted that. Netin means smelly. Maybe he has giardia. Poor Benjamin Netanyahu. He shouldn't have been crawling around on the floor. Yeah, I mean, I also just... Doing for impeccable. Oferin, Chris. Kheli mo chakaram azade. Yeah, my Farsi is... I did it for a while, I just can't really speak it. Very bizarre content. So should we get into this Ethan and Hasan? Because there's a lot more meat here. No, and also, wait, let me address something. You guys are talking shit, the person who just said could be the chair. You are lying. You are running defense for Netanyahu. There is no chair movement in that video. I've just closed it, but you can check. I don't think the chair does, especially because he looks down afterwards. Very strange. Bibby offering critical support to Eve Fartlow. Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Damn, you still watching this. I'm trying my best. I promise from... I think I said yesterday, I'm probably thinking about how I'll stream on here now is maybe once or twice a week of like a general news update, like things going on. Because, I mean, there's some other interesting news today, like the Houthis striking Israel, striking near Ben Gurion Airport. There's a big debate on Twitter about whether... the THAAD missiles failed or what the hell was going on. I don't know. Do you know languages other than English? I'm curious because it's normal to know like 3... I mean, yeah, English people are very famously shit at learning languages. Have I addressed... I don't know what's happening with Hasan. I know he was trying to hit me up. Maybe later. What was I going to say? Oh, someone... Oh, yeah, so I know... so I speak a little German, but my German's bad now, because I haven't spoken German for, like, maybe quite a while. But, like, when I watch something in German, I can understand it. Are you not going to be streaming? I think TikTok, Benjamin Fartin Yahoo, big fan of that. Are you not going to be streaming on TikTok anymore? I just would get banned. Every time I'd get really, really into streaming on TikTok, I'd just get banned. So I kind of was like, right, probably time to give up on this whole thing. And now on here, I actually have an audience, whereas on Twitch, I could never translate the audience over. And so it's kind of like, probably going to stay on here. I haven't seen your previous commentary. What's your take on the debate? So I have a YouTube video up, but I think it just kind of shows you the poverty of debate of like, so many people just came into this to hate on Hasan. And that's what, let's see, danke für deine Arbeit. Thank you for your work. This here is a test. I think I understand that. Guten Abend. But yeah. And we're bad at using spices. Yeah, I mean, I'm allergic to fucking fenugreek. Hasan is probably balling. Classic. You tagged the wrong Chris, I think. Who tagged the wrong Chris? Which Chris? Just stream here, much more accessible. Yeah, I think so. I speak Arabic, English, and barely baguette language. The Iron Dome looking more like papier mâché. Is it paper mâché or is it papier mâché? Chat Turk var mı? I also did a tiny bit of Turkish when I was in first year. Günaydın, nasılsın? Çok güzel. So I could speak to Hasan very well. Only started using Twitch to watch Hasan at the DNC live. Spent 9 years watching Hasan on YouTube. Oh, okay. Yeah, do I play ball, bro? I was gonna say how tall I am, but I realized I was gonna get. I believe that I'm 5'9", and that's my truth. I'm 5'9", and that's my truth. No one will deny it. And I have, when I was a lot younger, I ruptured my ACL, so it's quite difficult for me to play it. You look like an anime protagonist in a good way. I'm not sure I look like one, but thank you. Your Turkish is better than your Farsi. I can say very beautiful. So you're 5'10". No. Chris is 5'8". Yeah, I mean, Tony Soprano Lover has been claiming that I'm 5'8" for a long time now. I wish I was. But I believe that I am 5'8". Yeah, I don't. There's no photos of me next to anyone tall on like social media. I nearly met. I'm not 5'7". I'm a growing lad. I think I'm about 172 or 173. I haven't messaged myself in ages. I haven't measured myself. Sorry. So yeah. I'm 5'2" and have given up on dating. I wouldn't really complain about your height, and also like I don't know. I'm just I'm not so sure that I would ever give up on dating. I'm sure that you'll find someone who really loves you. I think that there's always that to look out for. How many centimeters? 172, 173. So Hasan could put you in a rucksack. Yeah, he probably could, but I'm a growing boy. Are you younger than me? I'm 24, so I don't know. Chris is only 12 years old. Plenty to grow. Yeah, no, I'm not 12 years old. I'll probably get banned from YouTube for saying that I'm... I've also set up my chair to straighten out my back so when people meet me. But I almost met, if you know the TikToker Yuval, I almost met him because we're quite friendly, me and Yuval, or we were. We're not friends. I mean, we've spoken about things, but I thought maybe that I would have met him, and if I had, I think he is very tall, so it would have made me look very stupid if we took any photos. I'll actually make it right and put you in my pocket. Short King, you're 5 years older than me. I mean, yeah, I don't feel old, but increasingly, I guess I do. Chris equals 36 years old. You can say that I'm 36. It doesn't necessarily make it true. So you're maybe a bit... I thought Poopy Ethan Klein was quite tall. You're 2 years younger than me. I mean, yeah, I'm relatively young. They think you're 12 because of the Hamas Potter allegations. Yuval Israeli. Yeah, his name's Yuval. He does like... I can find you TikToks. He's a nice guy. I don't think he's Israeli actually. He's Jewish, so I think it's a Jewish name. What's the tattoo? They're these. I'm gonna get a new one at some point soon. Someone was saying you shouldn't show them on social media, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not so scared. I think there are many things that I'm scared of. I have a BA and a master's. Sorry, I keep checking my phone to see whether Hasan's texted. He hasn't as of yet. So Ethan is 5'11". Fuck. I'm really in trouble. He was in the UK. I've never heard you condemn Hamas. What's the deal with that? I quite like hummus is my main issue, I would say. I actually do quite like hummus. I think it's quite a nice snack. Just not Sabra. Being tall is overrated. Once you hit 30, it's back pain. Are you doing a PhD? I mean, I think that's actually true. Are you going to do a PhD? Am I going to do a PhD? Maybe I'll do a PhD. I don't know. I think it's a bit difficult, really. I think that increasingly I struggle with the idea of doing a PhD because, yeah, No man is 5'11". They're either 5'10" or 6 foot or lying. You're looked Hasan. PhD on Ethan and Hasan. Yeah, I'm gonna do a PhD on H3H3 studies. Yeah. You can take him. You look like you move faster. I probably couldn't at the moment. Like, I'm a bit chunky at the moment. I went to Italy, and I overate there, and I've not really lost the weight. And I was like, okay, I want to put on some weight. But yeah, I'm 24. But yeah. Why not? You seem super academic. Because PhDs are... It wouldn't even matter if I wasn't an influencer. One of the things that I've always wanted to do is... I've always wanted to educate people. And this is a medium where I can do it to a bigger audience and stuff. But I think that one of the things is like with that, I think it's a lot of my friends found it very difficult when they were doing it. And yeah, but I really enjoyed, I wrote my dissertation about a concept called reorientalism that there's not really much written about, and the only stuff written about is about like Indians and South Asian writers who basically like write about India and make up that it's like, and they like play into Orientalist fantasies, and so they play into these Orientalist fantasies, and yeah, I basically wrote it in talking about the United Arab Emirates. Yeah, and I thought that it was pretty good. I mean, I was an infinitely bigger fan of Fat Ethan, so... I have one academic text that you can read online. It's an essay. It's called Palestinians and the Nazis. I'll put it in here if anyone wants to read it. Here it is. It's on Medium. I'll pin it. It's just about like comparisons between Palestinians and the Nazis and why it matters. I don't think it's that great. It got a decent mark if I remember correctly, like maybe a first, but yeah. I know a guy who used to live with Chris. He's in jail now. Is that really the case? Is it true you can't eat a fruit? You can eat a fruit pasta without chewing? I can. I think you are outgrown with 24. I don't know what you mean. That's a solid fun. No, I guess you're talking about right. I'm going to watch... Right, let's begin with this. You should make a Substack. I haven't done this stuff. Am I in the UK or in the US? I'm in the UK. So, yeah. Did Ethan already call his wife a terrorist, or is that coming up? We've still got that coming up. So, right, let's get into it. It's on the... As Ethan called him, the Houthi pirate Luffy. Also, by the way, do you know who the biggest pirate in human history is? Not Jack Sparrow, surprisingly. It's actually... I think it's Francis Drake. Francis Drake just basically did piracy. I don't know. I've not heard of Anak Bayan. That's coming up, laughing my ass off. Okay, right. Let's carry on. Are you going to be talking to Hasan later? Maybe.
Scares. I mean, it doesn't. It's what Norman Finkelstein said.
Pro-Palestine in a way that you think is appropriate.
Where your example is hijacking an unaffiliated ship and kidnapping 15 sailors?
It's not unaffiliated, but even if it was unaffiliated, as I've said already, if it was unaffiliated, that wasn't unaffiliated. You lied about that, and you recognize that you lied about that for the record. But if it was,
people can look into it.
Even if it was,
why did they kidnap? They didn't need to kidnap random people. That's like terrorist shit. Why are they kidnapping random unaffiliated sailors? How you defend?
Hold on. Ethan said a while back on Tiger Belly that living in Israel made it confusing to choose a side because all his friends gave him decent talking points against the things he learned in USC Berkeley. I mean, also, yeah, like an American person like Ethan is a ripe decision to kind of choose. And like Ethan is an American Jewish person who doesn't actually really know much or care about learning much about this stuff. And so he's like a ripe guy to be basically picking and saying, hey, like, let's get this guy and, like, get him to spread Zionist propaganda, you know? Like, he's an American. Like, and also, I just don't get this point of why Ethan decides to maintain this lie. It's called the Galaxy Leadership or something, isn't it? Galaxy Leader. Like, I really just don't know what the fucking point of lying about this is. It's just a really bizarre thing to fucking lie about. React to the new Kanye song. What, the one about him banging his cousin? Because, I mean, probably not the best idea. I'm not sure you're allowed to just openly sort of celebrate that kind of stuff. Well, he didn't bang his cousin, to clarify. I apologise, Mr. West. I'll react to I'll do a whole live album listening with, I'll do a whole live listening with, me, Sneeko, and that other guy, Neon, these really real thought brokers of our time. Jesus Christ, Will, you're gonna get a timeout, mate, if you're that cheeky. Cousin's a good song, Loki. I mean, it's got a very interesting. I have heard that one. Israel just blew up an aid flotilla. Ethan, why wouldn't the Houthis release all the sailors right away? Big thing for your thoughts. Yeah, I mean, also, like, look, kidnapping civilians is not a great thing, but, like, his wife probably kidnapped a civilian, you know? It's kind of like this selective moral outrage. Like, he went to say, he goes on to say, like, he goes on to say later that his wife was a terrorist, but his wife was a terrorist, but he was also like, well, maybe she was getting a terrorist who stabbed children. In Ramallah, probably fucking not. But anyway, like, his wife kidnapped civilians, like, quite possibly, you know, and she participated in an army that does that regularly. But sorry, just on this topic, I don't understand what the point of lying about this is. I really wish that there's, there's a ton of articles. Like, here's the Council on Foreign Relations. I don't care the slant of the article, but the point is that, like, this is, like, one of the key American think tanks talking about how the Houthis' attacks in the Red Seas threaten global shipping. The whole point is that they're saying that there's a price to pay for genocide. Like, it's like, even if they got the wrong ship, as Hasan is saying here, like, it's like, hey, the whole point was not to, like, grind Israel to a halt. It was much more to, like, say, hey, if you support genocide, if you're complicit in it, you won't be allowed to pass. And there's a very powerful song. I don't know if actually many people have heard this, so I'll see if I can pull it up, and I think it's very nice. Fuck's sake. Hold on, I'm going to get the song up, but it's going to take me a second. I'll read chat whilst I do this, because it's going to take a second. I'm in the wrong account, sorry. I've got, like, so many Instagram accounts at this point to go through. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Right, 1 second. I said I was going to read chat, and then I haven't done it at all. This is real. Who's Houthi of projection? I'd swear I'm in a 90s classroom with this much projection. There's also this whole, I'm ready to criticize the government, but yeah, I mean, this is the point. Ethan's not ready to accept anything, like, being done against Israel, you know? Like, he's just not willing to do it. Hold on. Fuck's sake. Oh, why can't I get to this post? God, sorry, this is really annoying. I just don't want to show my... Yeah, here it is.
في باب المنداب رجال أقوال أفعال في باب المنداب رجال أقوال أفعال من هناك؟ أنا باخرة يا أحباب أحمل حديد وأخشاب افتحوني يا أصحاب صوتك صهيوني خائن جنب يا كذاب ما دامت غزة في القصف لن ندخل محتل كذاب.
It is truly an unbelievable song. It is really, really, really an unbelievable song. Soft Take did a video on what Hila said years ago. I mean, I'd never heard of this. So this is like a children's song about Yemen, and it's not like a Houthi music video. It is a children's song made by some Yemeni people. It is not a terrorist propaganda music video, Ethan Klein, if you see this. It's for kids about why the blockade is acceptable. I also love the bit where it goes جنب يا كذار.
حيا حيا أنا باخرة كل هدايا لليمنيين ألف تحايا كل اليمنيين هدايا صوتك صهيوني خائن جنب يا كذاب ما دامت غزة في القصف لن ندخل محتل كذاب.
Ethan Klein wants you to believe that this is the work of an evil, monstrous terrorist. Look, how could they be wrong? They have little round circles with flags on them.
في باب المنداب رجال أقوال أفعال أهلا وسهلا أنا باخرة للهام والنفط علي الذهاب افتحوا لي هذا الباب صوتك صهيوني
Your voice is a treacherous Zionist.
جنب يا كذاب ما دامت غزة في القصف لن ندخل محتل كذاب في باب المنداب رجال أقوال.
It's a really beautiful song, you know. It also, by the way, it also references, that's One Piece, isn't it? I mean, I don't watch anime, and not for any, like, hatred reason, I just don't watch it much. Musical people. They're very musical people.
You know what's terrorist?
You're defending them kidnapping these unrelated foreign sailors?
Israel fucking blowing up a humanitarian aid flotilla.
When did I defend that?
1,002. No, I'm not saying you're defending that. I'm just explaining to you what actual terrorism looks like.
Well, you are.
I also think, by the way, just like on this topic, by virtue of making a video, as I said yesterday, when you try and deplatform all of these content creators, and you consistently say that you are being attacked anti-Semitically, that people are making hate watch videos that are basically much more, rather than confronting what you actually say, are all done because they hate you because you're Jewish, is ridiculous. I mean, Ethan spoke about this. Like, in his video, Ethan said that people want to criticize the crew because they want little Jew boy to be all alone. These are the words that he said. It's really weird.
Defending
As
terrorism,
this conversation taking place,
and you've done it many
last
times
night
during this
literally
conversation.
drone striked a fucking humanitarian aid ship that was headed for Gaza off the coastline of Malta. That's real fucking terrorism. What the Houthis are doing, on the other hand, is resistance, and it's not only moral, but it's just. And
very good. You're right. You're so righteous.
Is served,
do you think that the Filipino hostages who were held there for a year agree that that was an awesome, that was an awesome act of resistance?
Probably not. Can you explain to me what you would do? What would you do?
I think, well, first of all, I think that, like, there's something to be said for stopping the cargo in that strait, but they're doing it insanely fucking stupid. They're stopping unaffiliated ships and they're kidnapping unaffiliated people. How is that good?
Damn, dude.
They're doing
it's not
it
unaffiliated ship, by the way. But even then,
you won't explain how it's affiliated. You said it's owned by an Israeli conglomerate. That is an outright lie. Hold on, you're doing disinformation right now. It was not owned by an Israeli conglomerate. You said that. Yes, there's a lie. Galaxy Leader is a vehicle carrier that was owned by a British company, operated by a company connected. It was connected. It wasn't even. He didn't even own it. It was connected to an Israeli businessman. Mm-hmm. It was co-owned by a business that this Israeli guy was involved in.
Co-owned by Abraham Ungar.
So what? You know his name.
What do you mean? It's co-owned by an Israeli. What are we talking about?
No, it's co-owned by a company that has an Israeli.
Yeah. Also, like, I think when you see this and you see that, like, you know, all our governments want us to believe that the Yemeni people are like randomly evil anti-Semitic monsters who target Israel because they're crazed. Like, a lot of what Zionist propaganda operated off, especially in relation to Yemen, was, hey, it's actually indicative of how crazed these people are because Israel's so far away from them. Why do they feel this way about Jewish people? It shows you that they're in like this Islamic death cult. And I think that the thing is that, like, basically, you know, you are doing this and you are saying they are terrorists. You are feeding into this shit, this word that basically implies that they do violence for no reason, when there's actually a very clear explanation as to what they are actually doing and why they are doing it. And the thing is that if Israel stopped doing genocide, the Houthis would stop. Whereas if the Palestinians and all of these groups gave up resistance, Israel would still ethnically cleanse Palestinians and take over their land. I think that this is the key point. If you want peace and an equitable solution in the Middle East, it is only Israel that has to change, you know. And actually, you know, I think that actually in a sense, if you want like a major development in like across all of these countries, this would lead to change in many other places as well. And that's not like running defense here, because I assume how that could be interpreted of saying like, well, the Islamic regime in Iran's fine. You know, if you're a genuine leftist, I don't think you should believe that like someone who's like you know, authoritarian and people don't live equally in Iran and minorities are treated poorly across many different places. I think that, you know, you could see that in all of these places, there's loads of questions in the chat now. Sorry, in all of these places there, you could hope for better change. But yeah, like, I don't know, like when people hold them up as like monstrously evil terrorists. Also, my temperature is really weird today. I'm like slightly warm and slightly cold, but I want my fan on because my head's hot. I don't know. We'll see how things develop.
Dude, affiliated with it.
Well, you asked me how it's connected.
It's owned by a British company.
You asked me how.
Definitely, and it's actually really interesting because I think I mentioned it yesterday. There's a really dogshit Philip DeFranco video from TikTok which I got off. Shout out, I can't remember that. Why am I forgetting?
What's the difference between interventionist and market-based supply-side policies?
Supply-side policies focus
on. Hold on. Shout out. Oh my god, this fucking platform is so weird. Hold on. Okay, it's not gonna work. I don't know why that's not working. Fucking TikTok, man. But yeah, Philip DeFranco said the US had put an end to the vast majority of dictatorships, or the most in the world. But I think that the thing is like all of these places that were put to an end, we have also supported so many dictatorships across the Middle East, you know? It's ridiculous. Can you let Hasan know that Jacob Berger, one of the features, also wants to come on the broadcast to give a first-hand account? Yeah, I mean, I can mention it. I mean, there's, yeah, sure. I'm sure that he'll have someone on there. Oh my god, Chelsea are actually 2-0 up against Liverpool. Jesus Christ, I cannot believe it. Yeah, I'll talk to Hasan. I'll let him know.
How it's connected. I'm telling you how it's connected.
Well, you're lying.
Thank you for messaging me.
I don't like that connection.
No, you're lying. That's what I don't like.
I'm not lying.
I also just, as I said, this is literally just on Wikipedia. What is actually the point of, like, saying that it's not? Their beneficial owners are Abraham Ungar and Yael Ungar. Like, what is the point about just, like, maintaining the lie here? It's just pointless. It's really just pointless.
The ship info is readily available, Ethan.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter anyway. The problem for me, really...
it doesn't matter. Okay, that's point number 5 that you also presented falsely on your context puke.
The problem is more the kidnapped sailors. I just don't understand you can justify kidnapping a bunch of unaffiliated sailors.
I don't... Ethan?
You are.
Ethan?
I've always hated people calling authoritarian as an insult because all states are inherently authoritarian. It's only worth mentioning when they don't like the flavour of authoritarianism. Indeed, I think that there's a point that, yeah, I think that in many senses people don't give a fuck about authoritarianism. Like, seriously, what Iran has many things and many repressive actions that it has taken which are worthy of criticism, and people are like, God, you know, all of these, when they massacre their own population, it shows you how evil they are. We literally had no problem with the big I don't know if there are any other massacres which compare in size to this in recent years of just this. There were 1,000 people, including a Sky News cameraman, massacred on one day in 2013. Like, just snipers shooting at them. Like, all of these people. And no one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck. But yeah, no one gave a fuck. At all. Someone said, who's Chris Kunster, lad? Even if the former Israelis were just minority in a single Palestine, they'd not be a tiny minority. They'd be around 51% combined power. They still have the Knesset power. Well, I think that actually the other point about what you're saying, Balthasar, is that Palestinians would get the right to return, and there'd be loads of people who would actually end up returning. But yeah, I think that you're right about authoritarianism. That it's kind of a criticism only levelled at those that we do not like, rather than something that is applied correctly.
Have you ever heard of deterrent?
Yeah, walk with me through this carefully.
Yeah, please explain to me how it's justifiable to kidnap 15 sailors.
Ethan, what would you do? You have a better way to do it, I think. We're going to figure it out.
Well, like I said, you can do it without kidnapping unaffiliated.
During the Holocaust,
holding them for a year.
There were militancy, resistance, okay, that cut off supply lines, okay, supply lines for the Nazis, or even sometimes supply lines that actually impacted the civilians, okay, impact the civilians. Do you feel like that kind of resistance was unwarranted?
It's completely irrelevant. Why did they hold them for a year?
I don't know.
Okay, because they're terrorists.
What? Because they're terrorists.
Oh, what? Yeah, they're terrorists. They kidnap innocent civilians.
Are they? So the people
Filipino guys?
The people that are resisting against the Israeli genocide that you call a genocide
have to do with
are
that?
actually terrorists because you don't agree with their fucking methods. But you have no way. You have no alternative. You have no alternative. You call
That's not true. I said just don't kidnap innocent people.
Also, the other, you should read Connecting with the Enemy by Sheila Katz. She interviews Palestinians and Israeli non-violent efforts, focusing on revival, pre-Nakba society in Palestine and efforts to reconcile. I mean, so one of my lecturers actually wrote an interesting book about this. It's called like Dialogue in Palestine. It's about a specific era. I don't think it's $121. You may be able to find it elsewhere, but it's called Dialogue in Palestine, and it's about like the failure of all of this stuff. A specific something called People to People, and she would always tell this funny story. So she used to there were like all these meetings between Palestinians and Israelis, and they would like talk about like reconciliation and stuff. But one of the topics that they were like, right, we can't talk about history, because if we talk about history, the Israelis will be like, well, we founded this amazing state, and the Palestinians will be like, no, you dispossessed us. But so they didn't talk about it, and then they were like, right, you should all bring one thing from your culture. And she said they all brought one thing. So one of the Palestinians brought some kind of coffee grinder that are like common in the Arabic world, and apparently one of the Israelis says to him, they go, oh, I've never seen one of these before. And the Palestinian goes, really? That's really strange that you've never seen one. Did you not see them in our homes when you stole them in 1948? Yeah, it's really funny. But yeah, also on this topic of like who going back to this whole thing of like, you read Nardia's book. Nardia's wonderful. Nardia's absolutely wonderful. To have a single isn't an abdication of power on the part of Israel. They'd still have voices in a single state. I mean, I think that, there's also a movement for this. There's also things like who would control the army that people talk about. And this was one of the things that got heated with a lot of the sort of, a lot of the lecturers and a lot of the lecturers talking about this, it was a very good thing. Got any good recs? No, I don't. I think that a lot of literature about the Palestinian left would be in Arabic. Would be in Arabic. There's a pretty good the Dig Thawra episode is pretty good. Nardia who? I'd love to read more. Her name is Nardia Nassar Najab. Ilan gets all the credit, but Nardia's a brilliant lecturer. Nardia's not such a public figure, but she wouldn't care about me mentioning her name. Nardia taught me a lot about Palestine, and her work ranges on lots of different things, and she's a really excellent lecturer. I think that the stutter mocking is really ridiculous. And what was I going to say? Oh, sorry, to go back to this. Just on the topic of torture and stuff, they did hold these people hostage, but I don't think Ethan has ever once spoken about Israel's, consistent rape and violence against Palestinians, at all, in their torture dungeons.
It's easy, just don't kidnap innocent people. They could have done that, right? They could have taken the boat. They could have commandeered the boat and not kidnapped people, right?
Damn.
Oh,
Okay,
is that possible?
Fair. Do you think that warrants the standard of saying that one of the only groups that is doing militancy against and resisting against Israel's genocide, which they stopped, by the way. They literally stopped when Israel actually followed through on a ceasefire. If they were...
No. Nardia doesn't have a public Twitter. Her name is Nardia Nassar Najab, and she... big shout-outs. Nardia Nassar Najab. So Nardia grew up in Palestine. I don't know where she would have published. She let me see if she wrote about her. There's she appears a lot on Arabic television. I don't know if this is freely available, but I mean, I wasn't going to mention this, but if you know Shireen Abu Akleh, so Shireen Nardia Nassar Najab. But there's the thing. So Shireen Abu Akleh was a very close friend of her. You can read her piece for free about growing up with Shireen Abu Akleh and stuff, for the Palestinian journalist murdered. And it's why there's a clip of Hasan on Leftovers that always hits me really hard when he cries over her funeral, because it is really sad. Shireen Abu Akleh was a woman who did nothing wrong. She just grew up in Palestine. She was just a woman who grew up in Palestine and wanted to report and, did brilliant work, and was killed for that because she threatened Israel's narrative, realistically. And you just think about, I don't know. It is really heartbreaking, to be honest. You can read it. So I didn't know whether to mention it, but Nardia wrote about this. Nardia wrote publicly about this, and yeah, she actually recently finished an article which I've read that her and Shireen began together before Shireen was killed. Martyred, I guess, is perhaps the best way. They raided her funeral. I know he is doing the Birmingham jail white moderate bit. I don't know what you mean by that. But yeah.
Or just, erroneously and randomly fucking trying to claim ships because they're pirates. They want to live the pirate life. Then obviously they wouldn't have stopped doing that, don't you think? And they only started their blockade after Israel started starving Gaza again. And then also turned around.
What does that have to do with innocent sailors?
Wait, I'm sorry, I keep pausing. So someone mentioned this, and do not take this as a criticism or me admonishing the work of humanitarians. I think the work of humanitarians is brilliant, but I read a very good essay about this called, Bodies Out of Place, whenever an American citizen dies in Palestine, they're always remembered. Their name is always remembered. People talk about them for years to come. People go on and on and on about how they are, you know, like, oh, who remembers Rachel Corrie? And this is not to admonish them. Tom Handel, all of these people who died in service of a great thing. But in some ways, it reinforces the narrative of, like, it only matters when that it doesn't matter when Palestinians died because their body was in place. And yes, we may feel sorry for the violence that they suffer, but in many ways we think that it is, you know. I know it's Birmingham, Alabama. I guessed it wasn't Birmingham, UK. Don't worry. But yeah, I think it's always interesting, and I'm not admonishing you. I just think that this is a point to always keep in mind. You know, all of these people are amazing. I don't wish to detract from what they did. They did very, very, very brave things, and I don't even know if it's about, like, someone said white lives are more precious. Of course that it exists, but I think that the point is that in many ways it reinforces the idea that Palestinians are like, when they die, we kind of expect it more. I've not read Perfect Victims. I like Mohammed El Kurd, but I've only read short things from him. Dude sounds like Goebbels. Brilliant. Like, I don't think Goebbels was saying, like, yeah, like, journalists don't deserve to be murdered, you know?
Ethan, I don't think you want to go down this route.
I'm ready. What do you mean?
Is terrorism? Is Israel terrorist? Is the IDF terrorist?
I mean, you could characterize it that way.
Terrorist?
I mean, it's an army, so it's a different thing. It's
why is it a different thing? You think the Ansar Allah movement doesn't have a standing army? They have an army.
The Houthis did like a hostile takeover.
Ethan touches on what is, like, correct here of, like, what the difference and why actually you categorize certain things as, like, terrorist organizations, that basically the state has a monopoly on violence, but obviously he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Of, like, a portion of Yemen. They're at odds with the government. It's different. They also own slaves.
And also, by the way, look, I am no expert in Yemen, but one of the things that has recently happened with the Houthis is, by the way, the Houthis are just more popular than, like, any other group in Yemen. And one of the things that is drawing them more legitimacy than ever is they have fucking managed to provoke America into attacking them. And they are taking up a lot of American military equipment, you know. I don't think they're, like, going to destroy America or anything, but, like, this is giving them the legitimacy, you know? You see these million-man marches. They're not just, like, there for no reason. Apparently, Helen Lackner says this, that the first, like, protest for Palestine in Yemen was in, like, pre-state, before Israel was even established as a formal state.
We're going to talk about...
Exactly. They have a state which makes their terrorism legitimate, and the same which I want to deny Palestinians. Exactly. Palestinians, because they are non-state actors, cannot do violence, you know? You know, they cannot do it. It's just not allowed in these people's words. It's like the difference. I know, I would like to read Homo Sacca. I've always wanted to read, did you say that was a Gambin? So I've read quite a lot of Discipline and Punish. I need to finish it. I've been reading that for ages. Oh.
We're going to talk about the Ansar Allah movement's history.
But I'll say, yeah, Israel, the IDF is terrorist. Yes, the IDF is terrorism.
Hold on. Talk to me about how the Ansar Allah movement actually came to power without getting any notes from your Discord or anything like that. Explain to me the process in which Ansar Allah actually came to power. What?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
Yeah,
it's really interesting because in your video you also used a lot of...
Do you know there's actually something really interesting about the Ansar Allah movement when they... Arab people make Ethan feel afraid and uncomfortable. That's why he says... Have you considered his lived experience? Yeah, I haven't considered it. Being a Muslim woman raised in a post-9/11 American non-diverse state, it's so incredibly refreshing to see outspoken white content creators. Yeah, I think that, to be honest, one of the things that you kind of realize when you do this shit is how low the expectations really are of, like, people from the Arab world and stuff, because of the experience of you know, of generally from, like, white people towards them, their experience. I think it's particularly interesting, you know. What are your thoughts comparing a Yemeni TikToker influencer taking pics on captured boats to Anne Frank, the iconic pacifist, even in facing the Holocaust? Great, what a comparison. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're even saying? Like, what are you actually saying here? Like, the genocide in Yemen did not look exactly the same as what happened during the Holocaust, but hundreds of thousands of Yemenis were exterminated by fascistic countries who wanted to rule it as a dictatorship that was sympathetic to their was sympathetic to their basically authoritarian, repressive vision. They don't want something better for Yemen. All the United Arab Emirates want for Yemen, the people who are trying to displace it, along with Saudi Arabia, is a fucking pro-Western dictator who would abuse the population of Yemen equally as much. Saudi Arabia is obsessed with Yemen because there are millions of poor people who live in Yemen, right on the border of Saudi Arabia, who feel very aggrieved towards what Saudi Arabia does to them. And it's just kind of like, that's kind of what's happening in Yemen, you know? And like, I don't think it's unfair to compare the two of them. I think that Yemeni people have suffered greatly. Like, honestly, who cares? They're not exactly the same person.
Saudi outlets to be like, these guys are actually doing slavery.
Bro.
And it turned out that actually the video that you used did not even suggest that it was Ansar Allah that was doing slavery in the fucking poorest country on the planet. Okay?
The Houthis have slaves. That's not even contested.
They weren't those who were doing the slavery according to your own fucking video, but you still used it. And you used Saudi propaganda papers that at a time when Saudi Arabia was doing a fucking genocide.
For having slaves and kidnapping innocents. It's just so unnecessary.
What?
Also, sorry, actually, I'll respond to this from Tony Soprano Lover. Anne Frank isn't known for being a pacifist. She's known for being targeted and killed by a fascist regime. Exactly. I don't think I've ever sat there and heard, like, Anne Frank was good because she was a pacifist. I think that we know of who Anne Frank was because she wrote about her extermination, you know? I think that that's it. Like, she wrote about the process of being exterminated by the Nazis. People, like, sure, there's an element of saying, wow, it's interesting that she managed to cling to the idea that there were, like, good and moral people. But, like, you know, I don't think that she is famous for being a pacifist, you know? And also, by the way, like, the Palestinian tradition of resistance and armed militant resistance harks back for decades, really, to Izz-ad-Din al-Qassam, a Syrian preacher who came to Palestine and trained up lots of people who were going to resist against the British Empire and Israel. If Anne Frank was tweeting about putting Nazis on pikes, how long do you think she would have lasted? Well, probably not very long, because the Nazis would have tracked where she was. And also, like, I would not give a fuck if Anne Frank tweeted about Nazis being put on pikes. Who cares? Like, genuinely, who cares? Like, they are Nazis. In fact, you know what? Here's why I would never ever care about hearing about Nazis being put on pikes. Because I was reading this for my video about Douglas Murray, because he claimed Hamas were more evil than the Nazis because they... Hamas were more evil than the Nazis because of all these things that they did. Let's just have because they enjoyed what they did on October the 7th. At the front door, a clearly inebriated Gestapo official passed by a beer coaster with the number 1000 written in red pin to his blouse. Addressing Gruner, the policeman drunkenly bragged, "Man, today I am celebrating my 1000th execution." Celebrating executing 1,000 people. Thanks for confirming the situation of those two figures. Hermes is not the same at all. What do you mean, not the same at all? Israelis openly celebrate exterminating Palestinians constantly. But yeah, I don't know how that makes any difference. And of course, as I say, it is not a one-for-one comparison, but they are both people who've experienced genocide. Like, honestly. Like, yeah, and as well, it is like, they fought people who wanted to exterminate them on the basis of their race. I guess... I don't know why people argue Yemen is a genocide. I don't know enough about the Yemeni, the Saudi bombardment campaign of Yemen. I don't know. I don't know why people argue that way. Maybe it's because the line between civilians was blurred. I don't know. I mean, that's what Martin Shaw would probably say. But yeah, like just the things that he's saying. I mean, Douglas Murray is constantly saying this shit. By the way, constantly saying this shit. I smelled the odour of burning bodies and saw a group of Gestapo men who sat by the fire singing and drinking. For these Gestapo men, victory celebrations proved to be the order of the day. There are some of these that are insane. They wanted to eat nothing but large pieces of meat. Then some of them shot the Jews while the others ate and drank. Then those who had eaten went to shoot the Jews again, while those who had been shooting them before came to eat. They were singing and they were drinking, singing. They were drunk. They were shooting at the same time. One could see little arms and legs sticking out the edge of the pit. You know? I mean, yeah, like I've never, Tony, I've never looked into the genocide in Yemen. Hence why, like, I'm not so quite sure, you know, of
what are you talking
why I'm not
about?
quite so sure, like, why people categorize that specifically as a genocide in the sense of like what the understanding is within it, you know.
Just acknowledge that they do terrible shit.
The government was the one that was actually doing slavery.
I mean, also, yeah, like, I have no doubt that the Israelis who executed those aid workers and buried them and tried to, like, bury them and crush them, you know, I have no doubt that they were, like, celebrating it, you know. It was a genocide in Yemen. Yeah. I just don't know how, like, you could... I guess it's, like, along with the UN definition, but then, as I've said, the UN definition is fucking dog shit, so...
No, well, if they did, then the Houthis also have slaves. That's just a statement.
No, the Houthis don't have shit, okay?
They don't have shit. They don't have slaves. They don't even have slaves. They don't even have food. Like, what are you talking about?
That's not the point I'm making. They are the poorest country on the planet that just came out of a man-made famine.
How's that blockade, by the way, helping the country?
And the
How's
UAE?
the blockade helping the famine in Yemen? How's the blockade helping the famine in Yemen?
In Yemen, I'm talking about before, because you talked about how you were a regional expert.
What is blockading doing for the poorest country on earth?
And their violent takeover of Yemen. So I was like trying to figure out what you know about this. Maybe you know something that I don't know. So I was trying to pick your brain a little bit.
Well, so explain to me why it matters.
I don't know shit.
Sure, I don't know about the specific thing. Tell me why it matters.
Why it matters? What, their blockade?
Yeah, clearly.
Their blockade is awesome.
No, why it matters how they came to power.
Oh, because you used Saudi newspapers in the time when Saudi Arabia, according to Human...
Also, by the way, there have been so many pacifists in Palestine who were killed. I don't know why people act as if like it's an outrageous... And I'm sure that there were many Yemeni pacifists who were exterminated that we don't even know the name of. Genocide. Do you think the lived experience in regards to the level of suffering is remotely comparable between Anne Frank and the Yemeni... Do you think there's a comparison between the lived experience of the two of them? They suffered. They suffered. People were starved. They suffered. They both suffered. So, like, what do you mean? Saudi Arabia, along with the help of America and many other states, starved millions of people in Yemen. Is the audio cutting out? Are you sure about that? Is the audio cutting out? Hold on. And many other states starved millions of people in Yemen. No, I don't think the audio is cutting out. I don't think the audio is cutting out, is it? What the fuck? Your audio is cutting, audio is fine. In and out. It's in and out. What? Yemen. Is the audio starved millions of people in Yemen? No, I don't think the audio is cutting out. No, I think the audio is fine on my end. I think it might be if it's cutting out, refresh chat. Okay. I'll try doing that. Your audio is cutting, audio... Yeah, I know that it's not like a lie. I know you're not trying to trick me, but it's strange. It's strange. But yeah, I mean, like, who cares? Like, we're comparing levels of suffering. Like, not every genocide looks like the fucking Holocaust. It's definitely not on your end. No, I didn't get fooled, because I know that some people said it was an audio issue from, like, people who I trust, you know.
Rights Watch, Amnesty International, all fucking NGOs, was doing a Western-backed blockade that was killing hundreds of thousands of people, and the headlines that you used in your context puke were from Al Arabiya and numerous other outlets that had their own personal investment in vilifying the Ansar Allah movement. Having said that, of course, I also think that there are plenty to criticize about the Ansar Allah movement. I don't agree with everything that they're fucking doing, as I've said time and time again. Like,
I also mentioned this kind of at the end of yesterday. I mentioned this at the audio is cutting. Refresh. Oh, so you think refresh? Is the YouTube video cutting? Okay.
Can't do that either. So what?
Refresh, fix mine. The war on Yemen also isn't over. But like, I mean, yeah, like, also, by the way, of Arab states to focus on and call terrorists, our closest allies in the Middle East are undeniably sponsoring our two of our three closest allies in the Middle East are sponsoring genocide in the Middle East. The UAE and Israel. They are both doing genocides in different countries, targeting millions upon millions of people. Why, if you are so obsessed with the barbarity of Arabs, why not talk about that? And slavery as well. If you are so obsessed with slavery, right, Go and talk about what the Gulf states do. Go and talk. In fact, you could even link it. I was thinking about talking about this the other day because I hear loads of people who bring up the Arab slave trade. Okay, yeah, that's a bad thing, but you are bringing that up to say Arabs are racist. Would it not be better to bring up as a discussion and say, hang on a second, there seems to be some kind of way in which this is still ongoing through the use of certain countries like the United Arab Emirates and other Gulf states who bring over migrant labourers using the kafala system, and they promise them good lives and then they abuse them horrifically, but also specifically in the context of the UAE, right? The UAE manufactured instability in the country of Sudan. They manufactured horrific things there, and what they do with like a lack of opportunities for young Sudanese men is they pay them low amounts of money and then they bring them over to Yemen and they send them to kill innocent Yemeni people as mercenaries. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But like, people don't want to talk about that. Yeah, you can mention Qatar too. Qatar do it. Qatar do it. I don't know about Britain's role in the kafala system because pearl diving was, I don't know, the British didn't like establish the pearl diving industry and stuff. There's a very good there's a very good book about this called Matthew Hopper, Slavery in the Indian Ocean. Let me see if I can find it. I don't think that's its actual name. Fuck, what's it called? But if you want to read a thing, the audio problem is on your end, guys. You need to refresh. Matthew Hopper, Slavery in the Indian Ocean. He's one of the key authors on this. It's never been my area of expertise. It's fine. In and out. It's in and out.
I mean, it doesn't.
Yemen. Is the audio stuff? There's a thing. The audio problem is on your end, guys. Yeah, the audio is not on my stuff.
What Norman
How can people
Finkelstein
be
said.
pro-Palestine in a way that you think is appropriate?
Where your example is hijacking an unaffiliated ship and kidnapping 15 sailors?
It's not unaffiliated, but even if it was unaffiliated, as I've said
totally.
already, if it was unaffiliated, that wasn't unaffiliated. You lied about that, and you recognize you lied about that for the record. But if it was, even if it was,
why they didn't need to kidnap random people? That's like terrorist shit. Why are they kidnapping random unaffiliated sailors? How are you defending that?
You know what's terrorist?
You're defending them kidnapping these unrelated foreign sailors?
Roots in Gaza City. In the world, and not a single family was spared. But yes, Ethan. Yeah, I mean, Ethan is really, like, again, he admits that he hasn't used his platform to talk about the genocide. He has used it to talk about his feelings over and over again.
Israel fucking blowing up a humanitarian aid flotilla.
When did I defend that?
1,002. No, I'm not saying you're defending that. I'm just explaining to you what actual terrorism looks like.
Well, you are defending terrorism.
As of this conversation taking place,
and you've done it many times during this conversation.
Literally drone strike a fucking humanitarian aid.
Sorry, I've just seen that Bad Empanada has released a video called Scatman vs. Turk, Ethan vs. Hasan debate review. Oh, Lale Khalili is probably great as well. She's lovely.
That was headed for Gaza off the coastline of Malta. That's real fucking terrorism. What the Houthis are doing, on the other hand, is resistance. And it's not only moral, but it's just. And
very good. You're right. You're so righteous. Do you think that the Filipino hostages who were held there for a year agree that that was an awesome, that was an awesome act of resistance?
Probably not. Can you explain to me what you would do? What would you do?
I think, well, first of all, I think that like there's something to be said for stopping the cargo in that strait, but they're doing it insanely fucking stupid. They're stopping unaffiliated ships and they're kidnapping unaffiliated people. How is that good?
Damn, dude.
They're doing
it's not
it
unaffiliated ship, by the way. But even then,
you won't explain how it's affiliated. You said it's owned by an Israeli conglomerate. That is an outright lie. Hold on, you're doing disinformation right now. It was not owned by an Israeli conglomerate. You said that. There's a lie. Galaxy Leader is a vehicle carrier that was owned by a British company, operated by a company connected. It was connected. He didn't even own it. He was connected to an Israeli businessman. It was co-owned by a business that this Israeli guy was involved in.
Co-owned by Abraham Ongar.
So what? You know his name.
What do you mean? It's co-owned by an Israeli. What are we talking about?
No, it's co-owned by a company that has an Israeli dude affiliated with it.
Well, you asked me how it's connected.
It's owned by a British company.
You asked me how it's connected. I'm telling you how it's connected.
Well, you're lying.
You don't like that connection.
Well, you're lying. That's what I don't like.
I'm not lying.
Even the BBC knows this.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter anyway. The problem for me, really,
it doesn't matter. Okay, that's point number 5 that you also presented falsely on your context puke.
The problem is more the kidnapped sailors. I just don't understand you can justify kidnapping a bunch of unaffiliated sailors.
I don't, Ethan.
You are. You go. Have you ever heard of deterrent?
Yeah. Walk with me through this carefully.
Yeah, please explain to me how it's justifiable to kidnap 15 sailors.
Ethan, what would you do? You have a better way to do it, I think. We're going to figure it out.
Well, like I said, you can do it without kidnapping unaffiliated.
During the Holocaust,
holding them for a year.
There were militancy, resistance, okay, that cut off supply lines, okay, supply lines for the Nazis, or even sometimes supply lines that actually impacted the civilians, okay, impacted civilians. Do you feel like that kind of resistance was unwarranted?
It's completely irrelevant. Why did they hold them for a year?
I don't know.
Okay, because they're terrorists.
What? Because they're terrorists.
Oh, what? Yeah, they're terrorists. They kidnap innocent civilians.
Are they? So the people
Filipino guys?
the people that are resisting against the Israeli genocide that you call a genocide
have to do with
are
that?
actually terrorists because you don't agree with their fucking methods. But you have no way. You have no alternative.
Innocents?
You have no alternative. You call
That's
it
not true. I said just don't kidnap innocent people. It's easy. Just don't kidnap innocent people. They could have done that, right? They could have taken the boat. They could have commandeered the boat and not kidnapped people, right?
Damn.
Oh,
Okay,
is that possible?
Fair. Do you think that warrants the standard of saying that one of the only groups that is doing militancy against and resisting against Israel's genocide, which they stopped, by the way. They literally stopped when Israel actually fought.
Yeah, I think that this is the key point. And even if you remember when those, when America, like, if you think that this is like an act of terrorism, okay, whatever. America literally admitted through those signal group chats that they were saying, we don't have to attack Yemen now. They said that they could do it a month later, so it clearly was not an urgent matter that could be done without talking to Congress. They also mentioned how they were going to have to convince American citizens that it was actually something worth doing and important. That's just a far greater act of terrorism. The amount of people that have been killed in Yemen is far greater than by the blockade, by American airstrikes. It's ridiculous.
Follow through on a ceasefire. If they were just, erroneously and randomly fucking trying to claim ships because they're pirates, they want to live the pirate life, then obviously they wouldn't have stopped doing that, don't you think? And they only started their blockade after Israel started starving Gaza again, and then also turned around.
What does that have to do with innocent sailors?
They're innocent. Will someone think of the innocent sailors? Like, look, it is definitely not a great experience being kidnapped, but at the same time, these people were not being tortured and brutally abused. And Ethan calls that country an inspiring example of coexistence, and Israel's done that for decades. And also, you keep asking, yeah, I've seen the Joe Rogan debate. I have seen Liverpool scored as well. I reckon it'll be 2-2.
Ethan, I don't think you want to go down this route.
I'm ready. What do you mean?
Is terrorism? Is Israel terrorist? Is the IDF terrorist?
I mean, you could characterize it that way.
Terrorist?
I mean, it's an army, so it's a different thing. It's
why is it a different thing? You think the Ansar Allah movement doesn't have a standing army? They have an army.
The Houthis did like a hostile takeover of like a portion of Yemen. They're at odds with the government. It's different. They also own slaves, by the way.
We're going to talk.
Oh, I guess I've accidentally repeated a bit.
Talk about the Ansar Allah movement's history.
But I'll say, yeah, Israel, the IDF is terrorist. Yes, the IDF's terrorism.
Hold on. Talk to me about how the Ansar Allah movement actually came to power without getting any notes from your Discord or anything like that. Explain to me the process in which Ansar Allah actually came to power. What?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? It's really interesting because in your video you also used a lot of Saudi outlets to be like, these guys are actually doing slavery.
By the way, as well, this is actually something I wanted to bring up. So there's a WikiLeaks document about how the previous Saleh regime in Yemen tried to claim that the Houthis were Iranian implants and that they were overthrown by basically like Iranian influence in Yemen. It wasn't true. Even Washington was skeptical about it. And no, I'm actually a Chelsea fan, unfortunately.
And it turned out that actually the videos that you used did not even suggest that it was Ansar Allah that was doing slavery in the fucking poorest country on the planet. Okay,
the Houthis have slaves. That's not even contested.
They weren't the ones who were doing the slavery according to your own fucking video, but you still used it, and you used Saudi propaganda papers that at a time when Saudi Arabia was doing a fucking genocide
for having slaves and kidnapping innocents. It's just so unnecessary.
What are you talking about, dude?
This is a WikiLeaks article from 2010. The WikiLeaks shit from 2010 is really interesting. There's loads of stuff actually from the early 2000s as well.
Acknowledge that they do.
And yeah, the Saudi, and also, by the way, how legitimate are the Saudis? The Saudis won one brutal conquest and now they're the government of that country. They had one brutal conquest and since then they've been propped up by the US and Western powers. And also, by the way, like when people talk about brutal terrorists, brutal dictators, the thing is that all of these people, right? All of these people, we have no problem with... In fact, in like 2017 or 2018, right? There were like posters of Mohammed bin Salman displayed all across London. A guy who murdered a journalist, and was still torturing and murdering his population at that point.
Saudi-backed government was the one that was actually doing slavery.
No, well, if they did, then the Houthis also have slaves. That's just a statement.
No, the Houthis don't have shit. Okay, it's
they don't have shit. They don't have slaves. They don't even have slaves. They don't even have food. Like, what are you talking about?
That's not the point I'm making. They are the poorest country on the planet that just came out of a man-made famine.
How's that blockade, by the way, helping the country?
And the
How's
UAE?
the blockade helping the famine in Yemen? How's the blockade helping the famine in Yemen?
Well, there is, as far as I understand, there's no longer a famine in Yemen. I'm talking about before, because you talked about how you were a regional expert.
What is blockading and doing for the poorest country?
Ethan doesn't like when Israel genocides Palestinians, but not because he doesn't like when Palestinians are genocided, but because it makes him uncomfortable when Israel is criticized. I mean, 100%. Like, that's why Ethan is so willing to admit, like, oh, this bad thing, like, oh yeah, Israel is actually these bad things, you know? Like, Israel is an apartheid state. I shouldn't have said, oh, I'm going to Israel and stuff, and that was bad. I can see how it was construed as bad. But, like, you kind of have this, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, man, like, ridiculous.
And their violent takeover of Yemen. So I was like trying to figure out what you know about this. Maybe you know something that I don't know. So I was trying to pick your brain a little bit.
Well, so explain to me why it matters.
I don't know shit.
Sure, I don't know about this specific thing. Tell me why it matters.
Why it matters? What, their blockade?
Yeah, clearly.
Their blockade is awesome.
No, why it matters.
Yeah, Ethan constantly speaks about Soraya as well. Ethan constantly speaks about, like, how in the sense of Israel, there are so many complex choices about how Israelis are subject to terror attacks and all these difficult things. But the hard fact is if Israel was not a settler colony in the Middle East, these things would not be happening. People of the Middle East do not hate it. People in the Middle East do not hate Israel because of it being Jewish. They hate it because of what it has done to Palestinians, you know? And actually Lebanese people and all people all over the region.
How they came to power.
Oh, because you used Saudi newspapers in the time when Saudi Arabia, according to Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, all fucking NGOs, was doing a Western-backed blockade that was killing hundreds of thousands of people, and the headlines that you used in your context puke were from Al Arabiya and numerous other outlets that had their own personal investment in vilifying the Ansar Allah movement. Having said that, of course, I also think that there are plenty to criticize about the Ansar Allah movement. I don't agree with everything that they're fucking doing, as I've said time and time again, like their banner, right? Their banners the Jews, which you also presented in your video. Except, remember when you talked about Norm Finkelstein? And how Norm Finkelstein doesn't agree with from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
You agree with kidnapping civilians.
Can we play the clip of Norm Finkelstein talking about the curse the Jews and how what he thinks about that? Let's do that. Let's pull up the clip of Norm.
By the way, also with that slogan, you know it's actually borrowed from Iran, I'm pretty confident, and they borrowed it as like it's more of like a rhetorical thing, because initially they weren't in confrontation with Israel. It's only been as a result of Israel doing the genocide.
Finkelstein's thoughts on Houthis' actions and the blockade against Israel. You used them as a primary source earlier.
Again, I don't know if I'm speaking to Hasan. Hasan has replied to me. He responded to me last night, but we haven't spoken today, basically.
Because you thought, he's a reputable guy, which I think I agree.
He said something that I've said that I've been criticized for. And what does that have to do with every other take he's taken? It doesn't mean that I support that like we're aligned with every other take.
Norman Finkelstein also hasn't said that Hamas hides in hospitals and hasn't said recently that he is proud of his wife's service in the IOF.
In the world.
Dan, can you play this clip real quick? Sorry, this is 50 seconds.
It's irrelevant.
I passed it along.
It's totally irrelevant.
What do you mean it's irrelevant?
Because who gives a fuck what he said about it?
Wait, what do you mean? You
want to talk about
his perspective on From the River to the Sea to imply that he agrees with you. I want to see if you agree with him on this. Just play it.
All right, I'll play it.
Thank you.
So here, I'm going to play it, okay? And then when this is done, let's move on to something I know we both want to talk about. You claim, I'm going to play it. I just want to set this up. You claim that the worst thing I said in the context, puke, is that I wrongfully portrayed Jewish people fleeing from their countries, and I denied the Nakba somehow, which is crazy. So let's talk about that after this clip.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
And by the way, you're not going to scare us. You're not going to.
I'll just say up front, we can end on that point.
Oh, I can keep going all day if you want.
I'm sure you can. Yeah, I know. I know you go to bed tonight in a cool race car bed, but I have family.
Okay, no. That's...
Comedian, by the way, you go to sleep in a race car bed.
It's fine. Why are you thinking about what my bedroom looks like? It's kind of weird, man.
Yeah. No, you're right. You fucking badass fucking sports car bed.
It's very odd.
As long as the people in Gaza are subjected to a genocide, we won't stop. Do you know all the praise that's given to the Danish government because it helped evacuate Jews during World War II? But is there a case where a totally distant people did that for the people of Gaza? If I were to give a Nobel Peace Prize, I would divide it between three. South African delegation. Number two, those doctors who volunteered to go to Gaza, the Doctors Without Borders and others. One doctor, he was Palestinian. Why don't you leave? Because he had an option. He was able to go. He said, I didn't go to medical school for 30 years to abandon my people. He was killed. And the third, it's the Houthis. If genocide is the crime of crimes, the Houthis are the hero of heroes.
Yeah, I mean, the first two examples, I definitely agree. I think it's psychotic to give the Houthis a peace prize. That's,
why?
That's nuts.
Why?
Because what the fuck have they done for peace other than kidnap innocent?
every country in the world should be doing this to Israel right now. Like, obviously not like all doing a blockade, because not all of us have an access like that, but every country should have cut aid entirely and done everything in their power to ensure that they do not have, they are not receiving military aid, financial aid, or any of these things. Israel needs to be sanctioned so heavily. No way is there any morality in a country perpetrating genocide, and anyone doing something against that is something that I think is someone who is doing something moral. Like, yeah, as Hasan says, criticize them all you want, criticize their ideology, the way in which they act and conduct themselves, but ultimately, like, you know, Norman Finkelstein is correct for what he is saying.
Civilians, what have they done for the populace? This is, as you said, the poorest country on earth. What are they doing for peace?
The Houthis have created
what does this have to do with the river to the sea?
Material consequences for Israel as it has implemented a genocide.
All right, let's give them a peace prize. Whatever, I don't care. Let's give them a peace prize.
It.
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt.
Right. Also, it's still
don't ask the unaffiliated prisoners who were held for a year, though.
No, I don't. I think you're missing the broader point here. You're missing the forest for trees. Here, I'll give you a great example of this, by the way, because you spent a lot of time being like, the Houthis are bad, they're homophobic. I'm sure they are. Holy shit. Also, Dan.
There's actually, by the way, pinkwashing is an interesting topic, because I think that there's something more to be said about pinkwashing than how we normally hear the discourse. There's this brilliant essay from Hussein Omar on parapraxis called Homo Zion, which is about how queerness began to identify with Israel and stuff, and like how certain people from the queer communities identified with it. It's really, really, really good. But just on this point of homophobia, it's just a new era of Orientalism. Like previously, the previous Orientalism, if you look at the art and stuff, was always obsessed with Arab excess, like sexual stuff with harems and stuff. And people like Victorian men used to go to the Middle East as a space where they would like do debauched sexual practices that would normally not be acceptable where they were normally from, because normally they could pay people or like just force people into doing them. They did this all around the world, you know. They did atrocious things. Like, think about the treatment that black slave women got. It was awful. It was god awful.
And it keeps switching back to me on my end. Sorry.
Let's talk about the issue of the Nakba and stuff.
Hold on. I know you keep saying, oh, it doesn't matter, this is boring, whenever you come across a point
it's irrelevant, bro, and you just talk and talk. It makes the video unwatchable.
You said the Houthis are barbaric, they're homophobic, they hate women, all this shit, right? And I'm sure a lot of that is correct. Of course it is. It is the fucking poorest nation on the planet, and all it is known is fucking death and destruction. This doesn't justify having that sort of opinion, of course, but it certainly understands, don't you think? Certainly is part of the point, part of the problem, and the best.
Actually, also, one of the really interesting things in Homo Zion is it's also, by the way, one of the things that people always make out about Islam and Arab society, and then they'll try and dismiss it. And I don't think you can blame everything in the world on like the West, and I think there is actually an element of how it removes agency from the people of the Middle East, in terms of saying like, oh, the West is the only one who can make change and does every single thing. Of course, but agency is also a shitty word. Homo Zion, yeah, I linked it, but then it's obviously gone. I'll relink it. Let me just put it here. Replace pinned message. It's pinned here. But basically, how are you not talking about the influence of hold on, here we go. Atzmoni suggests that by substituting the particularist term of Allah for universal love, that Palestinians, especially Muslims, harbour the same hatred for homosexuals that he sees within his own society. In an all too predictable instantation of projective fantasy, he imagines the deplorable and undesirable homophobic backwards of Israeli religious society to dwell within that society's perceived enemies, the Palestinians. In a sleight of hand that both acknowledges and mirrors the ethno-religious foundations of the Jewish state, Palestinian backwardness is displaced onto Islam and Muslims. And yet, anti-sodomy laws in Palestine did not originate within Islam or from the efforts of Muslim legislators. Instead, they were imposed by prudish British officials who imported Victorian anti-sodomy laws wholesale from the Raj in India. Ironically, those British officials imagined they were overriding a national institution and forcefully yanking Palestine backwards into the purview of a universally liberal civilization. Thus, by tethering homophobia to Islam, Atzmoni, like many other pinkwashers, obscures the British origins of anti-sodomy regulations, perhaps even unknowingly. Instead, they imagine homophobic laws as wholesale products of the religious character of Muslims, against whom Israel increasingly defined themselves, even though these very laws were repealed in much of Palestine in 1951, over 35 years before they were repealed in Israel proper in 1988. Very interesting. That's from Homo Zion by him. I did see. Right, guys, I really have to go for a pee. I'll be back very shortly. If you're all saying fucking muted,
that's possible.
I'm going to lose it because I was only muted because intentionally. No chair reacts. No chair reacts.
Them to have a civil
We off the Zaza. No Zaza. No Zaza.
rights movement to...
There are anti-sodomy laws in most Christian African countries. I mean, yeah, but people, look, sorry, people with the concept of Orientalism has always been about establishing yourself as good and moral. It has always been about finding an other and using that as a launching point to establish yourself as good and moral. That is actually also what Israel fucking does. It makes Palestinians into barbarous savages and does this because it can use it as a launching point to establish its own civility. And that's why these points about like, oh, look how fucking homophobic they are always so important. Look at the slavery they do. They never want to consider that Western society has no problem with countries like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia.
Give gays rights would probably be to stop fucking bombing them, as Joe Biden did, and as Donald Trump has done.
Yeah, that wasn't my chief criticism. And again, my criticism is that they are kidnapping civilians.
Yeah, I know. You don't like their methods, but you have no alternative method. Now,
I said just do it without kidnapping civilians, but it's not rocket science.
You said the IDF is maybe not a terror organization, but the IDF is a terror organization.
I didn't say that. Wrong. Again, a liar.
So you think the IDF is a terror organization?
I said yes.
You believe the IDF?
I think it's fair to characterize them that way.
Okay. Your wife was in the IDF.
Yeah.
Do you believe your wife is a terrorist?
Of course not.
You have considered a 19-year-old Yemeni TikToker who is not even a part of the Al-Houthi family with no Houthi affiliation, but simply a person that says he stands with the Houthis, and I do too, a terrorist over and over again because he has a gun in the second highest gun ownership density per capita. And because he responded to a fucking Instagram comment saying he's a soldier, a dude who doesn't even speak English, you kept claiming that he was a terrorist over and over again. His name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a fucking Zaidi Shia. He is not even a part of the Houthi family. Because if he was a part of the Houthi family, his last name would be al-Houthi, not al-Haddad. Okay? This person, you looked at a 19-year-old fucking teenager who's a TikToker in the poorest country on the planet, who's only known death and destruction, and spent countless fucking hours looking through whatever his social media was to be like, this guy is bad. This guy's fucked up.
Let's look at it.
Of course he's fucked up. He lives in goddamn Yemen. Are you stupid?
Do you know what the bigotry of low expectations is?
You dumbass.
Do you know what the bigotry of low expectations is? You're saying because
By the way, I also hate this fucking shit about the bigotry of low expectations. I have no idea where this... Well, I do have an idea where it's come from, but people are like, oh, you expect them to be homophobic. Shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up, honestly. It's not expecting people to be homophobic. It's acknowledging the conditions in which people have existed within, you know? And also, by the way, I also always hate it because all these people who are so quick to go, look at these, look at what's happening to Muslims, often don't care about trans people. Like, like Ethan is slightly better on this, but like a lot of people are just very anti-trans who talk about Hamas's values against gay people. And also, by the way, do not really care that, you know, like the Premier League is a really good example. The Premier League is the biggest football league in England. There are a lot of male players and there are apparently none of them are gay. And the reason for that is because probably there are gay Premier League footballers, but they refuse to admit it publicly because they know that they will be targeted with extreme bigotry.
He's poor, he hates Jewish people. Let's watch.
No!
because he's poor, he hates Jewish people. I don't even think he actually hates Jewish people. I think that there are a lot of people, and I mean, there's a really good, there's this article by Mohammed El-Kurd, which is brilliant. When we were growing up in occupied Jerusalem, the people seeking to expel us from our neighbourhood were Jewish, and their organisations often had Jewish in their name. So were the people who stole our homes, scattered our furniture in the street, and burned my baby sister's crib. The judges banging their gavel in favour of our expulsion were also Jewish, and so were the lawmakers who facilitated and systematised our dispossession. And I mean, there's one that I don't think he mentions here. Israel refers to its policy of ethnically cleansing Palestinians and replacing them with Jewish people as Judaizing. And it sounds fucking anti-Semitic to even say. But literally, there is literally a Judaization of the Galilee is a regional project and policy of the Israeli government and associated with private organizations, which is intended to increase the Jewish population and communities in the Galilee, a region within Israel which has an Arab majority. It's just unbelievable, like hearing about how Palestinian, like hearing about how it's kind of anti-Semitic to talk about these kind of things, and it's just ridiculous. Ethan was called out for 2 years ago when he fetishized a gay man who called into the show and made him extremely uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know actually about what you're talking about, but I do know, like, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, also the thing about Ethan was talking about, I hope Hamas throw you off roofs. It's really weird. Listen, I know I'm racist, but did you think about how many black people wronged me in life? What? I mean, there's a big difference between saying black people wronged me in life versus a state which is an ethno-supremacist one, which speaks consistently about how it wishes to exterminate and expel Arabs because they are fucking Arabs. Like, genuinely, do you think that this is a good point? Like, Mohammed El-Kurd puts it well here. His entire life has been defined by the fact he is not Jewish.
It's not because he's poor that he hates Jewish people. It's because he lives in fucking Yemen. And in that part of the world, the only thing that people see is the dangerous conflation of Zionism and Judaism. Because the fighter jets that blow up their fucking schools have a Star of David next to them. And when the Palestinians are kidnapped, when they're fucking forced to go through military trial detention, they get fucking Stars of David carved on their heads. Israel is the one that dangerously and falsely claims to be the nation.
Ethan, so there's two things. The bigotry of low expectations point is, as far as I can tell, never used to defend the oppressed and always to argue for more oppression. I mean, it always is. It's always by people who do not give a fuck about the suffering of people in the Middle East. Soraya, you don't have to donate. I don't know if you're planning on donating $60, but you really do not have to. It's greatly appreciated, but you've already donated a lot. Ethan hyper-focuses on the responsibility of Palestinians to elevate Israeli trauma to the level of trauma experienced by Palestinians. He fixates on manufactured duality of traumas. I mean, he does, and we'll really get onto that later. Perhaps Ethan believes he is more beloved than I because of... Hold on, actually, you know what? We can watch a small bit of this, because I highly doubt a lot of you have watched this, and it really doesn't surprise me that you haven't, because it's a very, very, very long... it's a very long video that I made. Hold on, let me just get it.
People being massacred. Factors, numerous factors. But unfortunately, when it comes to our people, what does it lead to? It leads to a total dehumanization. It leads to absolute complicity. And it leads to the people of the British Isles being told by their governments consistently, we don't care about what you think about this. And now they'll pretend, well, you know, we want to stop Israel's excesses and we're looking for a ceasefire. I'm like, yeah, too late. What are you going to tell to the 10% of our people that have been destroyed and killed in Gaza? That's on you. That's on your record. And don't you dare talk to me about equating our struggles and our disaster that we're facing with your feelings. They keep saying, well, I feel like I'm disrespected by the protesters. Or I feel these protesters are tapping into an anti-Semitic agenda. I'm like, really? You don't feel that they're horrified by the death and the killing? You don't feel that these are the true anti-racists in society that do not discriminate against Jews or Muslims or Arabs or anybody. They believe in the equality of human beings. That's why they care about people being massacred anywhere in the world, especially when British weapons are used in British money. But not exclusively, of course. Unbelievable, Chris. Unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, I just wanted to pull that up because there are a few parts of this were like discussion with Abdul. That's on my YouTube channel if you want to watch it. The audio's not great, which is really unfortunate because I think it was a really powerful discussion. It's so long. But what he talks about like there, like just in terms of like people equating fucking feelings. Like I am listening to a man, who calls his friends in Gaza all the time. Like, I mean, he has a lot of friends. He's Palestinian himself. He's like a very good academic, like one of the best, and he is just talking about like how his experience should not be equated. And is it not wrong? Like, you are telling me about your feelings and your feelings towards From the River to the Sea and your feelings about things when like Palestinians don't really even get a chance to think about their feelings because there's so many of them dead and maimed, displaced, and in existence of just awful experiences. Perhaps Ethan believes he is more evolved than I because he is capable of equating his struggle as someone who had the privilege of settling in historical Palestine and married to an Israeli soldier to my struggle as a Palestinian who, even with an American passport, is not permitted to enter my ancestral homeland. I think that this is something that I missed that I really wanted to note in my video. I had it said, but the way I said it was dog shit. Ethan is a man who grew up in America, yet he considers himself Israeli. Most Palestinians, someone like you, can't go. Like, you can't go. Evade imminent death from indiscriminate bombardment and grave sites of my ancestors. Exactly, and so much memory. There's a really interesting guy called Maurice Halbvex who talks about space and memory in Palestine. And space and memory generally. When your memory has so much more to do with being in spaces that you were once in, and erasing an entire space where people are from literally erases the memories of so many people. Israel has wiped away thousands of years of culture, history, and life in Gaza. If that is not genocide, then I do not know what genocide is. Or perhaps Israelis, as Ethan, are, in this moment, better able to evaluate the struggles of Palestinians than Palestinians are able to evaluate the struggle of Israelis. Because in the last century, and certainly in the last few years, the Israelis have suffered far less trauma at the hands of Palestinians. Of course, but the trauma that Israelis suffer for someone like Ethan is far more important, It's far more important than the suffering of Palestinians. It just is. Ethan literally said his personal boundary is kidnapping civilians. So why is it suddenly became the kidnapping, homophobia, and his fifis? I mean, exactly. It's just about feelings, It's just about feelings.
Nation state of Jews, Israel.
Also, I am not, like, you could have come up on TikTok a while ago, but why would I debate you? Increasingly, I see the poverty of debate, because what is the fucking point when you will just sit there and go, well, actually, this one thing happened once, and this means that it's okay to genocide Palestinians. I don't care. I don't care. There is nothing you are going to say which can undermine the fact that a settler colony was established in the Middle East that only exists initially because the British supported it as an imperial power who saw it as part of their empire. And then after this point, it basically went off and sucked off America. And so it could get the most advanced weapons and could continue killing more people and expanding its system of dispossession, marginalization, and extermination that has culminated in the killing of probably well in excess of 60 or 70,000 people to now, and by the way, I mentioned this the other day, there are hundreds of thousands, there is well in excess of 100,000 people who have been wounded in Gaza, not to mention the millions who are traumatized by the scenes that they have seen with their own eyes. Think about like how seared into your brain some of these images from the Gaza genocide are. Like, there are some images, I won't talk about them here for fear of being banned, but there are certain images that I remember that I see and that I will never ever be able to forget. But imagine that you had actually seen that with your own eyes. You can't imagine what that's like. You cannot imagine what that is like. You can't. Thank you, Sarai. Thank you so much for your kindness. It is always appreciated, but it is never needed. But honestly, just like you cannot even begin to fathom what it is like as a Palestinian who has lived amongst death, the smell of death, the constant fear of death, displacement, extermination of family members, with no time to grieve or mourn. You know? And it's just like, you want to talk to me about like how at the Great March of Return there were some militants there. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, honestly, and you say it's to expose grifters and frauds. You aren't exposing any grifters and frauds. The people who are grifters and frauds are those making money off advocating for genocide. It is evil. It is evil. It is categorically one of the most disgusting industries to have ever emerged. That you can build a platform of just talking positively and explaining why it is okay to exterminate people.
Israel is the one that makes...
Yeah, they attacked the fence. No, they attacked the fence. No, there were some people there who it's okay to bomb an entire market because they got one guy. Yeah, they got one guy who was resisting against genocide, who was stuck in a space where he was never allowed to live an equal life because he was a Palestinian. I don't care. I don't care one bit.
Makes everybody think that this action, all of the action, the genocide that you called a genocide, is actually being done at the behest of Jews. So, of course, for everyone in that side
Israel
of the
doesn't
fucking
claim
world,
they're doing
when
it
they
on
say
behest of
Jew,
Jews.
it's interchangeable with Israel. Many of these people, including Refat
Do you think he's like
al-Rahman-
Anne Frank?
What?
Do you think he's like Anne Frank?
Oh, of course, absolutely. He has withstood genocide. He has withstood genocide by the Saudi government.
the only-
Of course I do. I think that talking to, but my point that I
Anne
was
Frank.
fucking presenting, my point that I was fucking presenting.
Anne Frank is famous for being a pacifist.
World's largest open-air prison. My friend who's from Gaza said, don't call it a prison, and I think she's right, because it implies the people of Gaza deserve to be there. Their only crime was existing in their ancestral homeland as Palestinian people. That is Israel's widest problem. Quick question, what do you think Iran would do if people attacked their border? I don't care what Iran would do. Iran may be many things, but it is not a settler colony that has exterminated has exterminated hundreds of thousands of people. Like, honestly, like, why do I care what Iran would do?
And seeing the good in people despite a fucking Holocaust that took every member of her family but her dad. That's why she's inspiring. This guy went on Twitter and said, fuck Jewish people.
Would be less inspiring if she somehow was able to get out of the...
If she was like, I want to kill Germans and hang them, yeah.
Yo, I think Marek Edelman is a very inspiring man. I think Marek Edelman is a very inspiring man. One of the last surviving leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto, a lifelong anti-Zionist. You can read it here if you want. To all leaders of Palestinian military and paramilitary and guerrilla organizations, my name is Marek Edelman. I'm a former commander of the Jewish military. He talks about how they burnt tanks. You can read it. He doesn't explicitly condemn Palestinian militancy beyond one point here, where he talks about suicide bombing specifically. We were never careless with life. We never sent... where is it? It's in here somewhere anyway, about like... here we go. We fought for mere life, not for territory, not for national identity. We fought with hopeless determination, but our weapons were never directed against the defenseless civilian populations. I recommend Facts on the Ground. That sounds like a very interesting book. Thank you for the recommendation.
Arms against the Nazis? Would you say that Anne Frank is bad for that? Say Anne Frank is bad for that, Ethan.
Or something that didn't
Anne Frank would be
happen?
bad if she took up arms against...
So, but I think Hasan, the only thing he should have done here is brought up Marek Edelman. Like, is Marek Edelman not a hero? And not someone to be looked up to? He fought against the fucking Nazis in the Warsaw Ghetto. And there are, by the way... Someone wrote a Twitter thread about this that I'll see if I can find that seemed like pretty well written. I can't find it, but someone wrote a really good Twitter thread, and I assume there's academic stuff on this. How partisans within the killed civilians. Ethan should check and learn from the AnneFrank.org. Although many Jews identify with Zionism, there are still many different points of view. That is the reason enough. Yeah, I mean, also that conflation is dangerous because, yeah, you are literally... The conflation of saying that all Jewish people are Zionists, it literally inflates the idea that Jewish people are all responsible for what's going on in Palestine. Sure, there's a considerable amount of people who support it, but they're not all responsible. It's just not true.
Against the violent Nazi occupation. Say it.
It wouldn't be the same, for sure.
Oh, it wouldn't be the same. Why wouldn't it be?
She's famous for being a pacifist and seeing the good in people despite living through a Holocaust. Do you understand that? That's
if
not.
Anne Frank,
let me show you. Let me show you.
Do you think that if Anne Frank,
Israel isn't.
do you think that if Anne Frank took up arms against the Nazi occupation, you would call
Israel
her
isn't
a bad
occupying
person?
Yemen anyway.
What?
Israel's not occupying.
Warsaw Ghetto was an absolute one-sided slaughter. In the Warsaw Ghetto, they still killed. They still killed a decent amount of Germans, according to Marek Edelman's Marek Edelman Warsaw Uprising. See if I can find it. I can't find it. Book. Wait, I can probably. I read it. The Ghetto Fights. That's what it's called. The Ghetto Fights. Okay. It's called The Ghetto Fights. He talks about it in there, how they like commandeered a machine gun and did all these things.
Occupying Yemen.
Israel isn't. But for every single country in this region, American imperialism.
And also, by the way, on this topic of armed resistance, I am never ever going to condemn, like, and actually this is something spoken about by, oh God, what's his name? By Boaz Evron. He says that how Europeans always bear in mind the images of what happened during the Holocaust. Of course, Europeans should always bear this in mind because they fucking did that. But Europeans do not bear in mind the images of the Congo. They don't bear in mind the image, well, what the Belgians did there. They don't bear in mind the images of what was done to the Algerians. I'm pretty confident in 1961 or something, 2 million people in Algeria were literally in internment camps. There were 2 million people in, who were in internment camps out of a population of like 8 million. The French massacred Algerians en masse. Like, what? And so those people weren't noble for rising up and fighting back? Fuck that. It's bullshit. It's utter bullshit. There's so many examples of this, by the way. So many examples.
Is all they
You say the Saudis, you said this, why don't they say death to Saudi Arabia on their flag? Why is it Jews? Why
because they're directly fighting Saudi Arabia. What are you talking about?
Oh, you see the Star of David. Of course they hate Jews. What about why does their flag say death to fucking Israel and damn the Jews?
Their flag says death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews. Which
Damn
I
the
have
Jews,
said time
curse
and time
upon the
again
Jews.
is kind of gauche, not acceptable, not appropriate
That's
by
nice.
Western standards. But if you listen to, Norm
say
has a
Saudi
clip on that
Arabia?
too. Norm has a clip on that too. Do you want to see it? Do you want to see it?
Let me show you this.
Do you want
You've
to
been
hear
going
Norm
on and on.
explain that?
Mandela, Haganah, all resistance movements who didn't target civilians. The Haganah wasn't a resistance movement. The Haganah was a movement that got upset that the British Empire wouldn't allow them to carry on the full colonization of Palestine and became a blockade and then turned against the British, who literally were the reason that Israel and Zionism was able to succeed. The only thing that they are resisting, they're just resisting against the indigenous people. Like, yeah, they turned against the British so they could do more colonization. I do not give a fuck.
No, I want to show you this, okay? You've been talking.
And also, the Haganah were part of the expulsion of Palestinians in 1948, so... Oh, I guess it became the IOF, but they expelled Palestinians, you know? They split with others on the basis of the belief that they were defending, but by virtue of being a settler colony, they were very, very, very much... by virtue of defending a settler colony, by the way, and this is always the point, the position of being a settler colony is never, ever, ever defensive. You are going into other people's land and trying to take that from them. That is an aggressive and violent position to be taking. Any Zionists who were defending that were not resistance movements. They were part of an oppressive project of expelling Palestinians.
Very good. Let's watch this.
Do you condemn the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising,
Hasan,
Ethan?
you got to stop.
Do you condemn the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising?
I'm going to play this video, okay? He says, ready for sacrifice. Maybe I read it.
Sacrifice and eager for martyrdom. Maybe he's talking about football. Here he is singing.
Who also, everyone loves this. Douglas Murray's like, there is a death cult where they love life, where they hate life more than they love death. These dirty Islam Muslims. Give me life, give me liberty, or give me death. Was literally a slogan of the... originally, and there's so many examples of, like, give me liberty of death, the use of the term martyr in the French Revolution. People used to use this term where they wanted freedom, and they said that we want it much more than, we only want freedom and death, you know?
Singing a song with the words, do you threaten us with what we are waiting for, son of a Jew? Meaning of Houthi is a title, and it's not something to fear, but for the Jews. They are very afraid of this title. The execution we will carry out on all Zionists, with the lovely depiction of a man impaled through his asshole and out of his mouth with a pike, or how Hasan likes to say it, a pike for a cup. Okay, why would he retweet this article called Houthi?
So many people used to talk about freedom over death, and yet when a Muslim does it, oh, it's so... It's so scary, you know. People have long said, hey, we would die in the service of a greater freedom for decades and generations.
He's used social media to boost global prominence and support. Okay. Israel falls. Wait for the new operation in Tel Aviv, the Jaffa drone, which no Israeli defense can stop. The ships we bombed and sank. I know the Red Arrow is supposed to be a cool military Hamas thing. This is a
because the British at times limited what the Jewish state could do. There's a famous quote by like Ben Gurion, which I'm going to get wrong, so I'm actually not going to quote it. Actually, I could quote it, but I need to pull up a Word document, which I'm not... Oh, actually, I can do it. Hold on. I'll quote it. Oh, fuck's sake. Actually, I can't show you it. I can't show you it. It's from something that I cannot show, so I won't do that.
A plug. Just saying.
Patrick Henry is the one, but there's also a French example of it.
To every Zionist, I will put this into your stomach. And let me state the obvious. Jew and Zionist is clearly interchangeable to this guy. Okay, but hating Jews doesn't make you a Houthi. Are you a soldier? Yes. That seems pretty definitive.
Why did he say yes? Are you a soldier?
Bro, he doesn't even fucking speak English. You're like, oh, he's a soldier.
Oh.
Wait, even if he is, I'm gonna ask you a question very clearly and very deliberately. If Anne Frank posted,
just like Anne Frank, by the way.
If we had the internet during the time of the Holocaust and Anne Frank posted about this is what we're gonna do to the Nazis, would your analysis of Anne Frank change
yes,
even a little bit, even an iota?
Yes, of course it would, because she's famous for being a pacifist, not tweeting out death to all Zionists. She's famous for seeing the good in people, not fucking tweeting out that we want to nuke Israel. What do you mean?
I would not give a fuck. I would be loud and proud going, hey, that's what she said. That's what we're going to do to the Nazis. Fuck yeah, girl.
So after watching that compilation, you still agree that he's just like Anne Frank?
Did you not hear what I asked you?
I'm just summarizing.
Sorry, 1 second. Here we go. Here's David Ben-Gurion talking about it. We must support the army as though there were no white paper and fight the white paper as though there were no war. He's talking about like their opposition to the white paper which limited Jewish immigration to Palestine due to negative Palestinian reactions to losing their land.
Yes. Anne Frank died before she could resist. But if she did, I would never hold that against her.
She was fucking killed in a concentration camp, you psychopath.
But if she did.
She was exterminated with her whole fucking family. Her dad.
Also, like, I love how Ethan's acting as if Hasan in some way minimized what's happening in Palestine or anything. But yeah. And committing the second intifada instead of accepting a peace movement. The second intifada, according to Andy Clarno in Neoliberal Apartheid, the vast majority of people use non-violent resistance. Israel's violent actions during the second intifada, were far grander than anything done by Palestinians during that period. 4,000 Palestinians were killed. Palestinians were subjected to violent curfews, torture, extreme brutality by Israel, and people act as if, oh, it's because the Palestinians didn't get peace. The Palestinians didn't accept peace. Absolute bullshit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I could just reel off exactly what happened at Camp David, but there are plenty of accounts by people like Norman Finkelstein who explain very clearly why it was not the good deal that people made out, and also very, very clearly, in the case of what Israel has done, they did not want the Palestinians to have a state.
It's the only one that survived.
And they showed that specifically through the Oslo Accords, because the Oslo Accords were a momentous moment, a moment where they shook hands, the Arafat and Rabin shook hands, and it was meant to be the moment at which peace was established. It went nowhere. Israel since that date has used the Palestinian Authority as an oppressive regime who oppresses Palestinians and does nothing for them. Can you, on the Ben Gurion quote, what does he mean? So Ben Gurion is talking about how basically they would have a relationship with the British as if there was no World War II, I believe, and they would fight with the I can't exactly remember the exact context. Hold on. I think it's from 1939. Hold on. I'll just put it back up so I don't get this wrong. Yeah, it's 1939. So he's talking about we must support the army. So he's saying we must support the British as if there were no white paper. So the white paper was declared following the Arab uprising of 1936 to 39 against Israel, against the Zionist project, and in response they brought in this white paper but really did nothing to stop Israel, and fight the white paper as though there were no war. So he's talking about how simultaneously they must support the British, but then they also must reject it. Would the Palestinian Authority be similar to Judenrat? I don't know if you could call them similar to Judenrat. I'm not an exact expert on Judenrat. However, what I would say about the Palestinian Authority is that they are just dogs of Israel who do nothing. Israel, they do everything that Israel wants. Literally everything that they want.
Her journal. Are you fucking mad?
Right? Would you hold that against her? Would you hold that against Anne Frank?
I wouldn't hold it against her, but she wouldn't be the same historical figure that said, despite my family being killed in concentration camp and everyone being murdered, I'm still a pacifist that sees the good in people. What the fuck? What's so confusing about that? Not kill Zionists, not nuke Israel, not a pike through Zionist assholes.
I can't believe we're once again discussing the posts of a dude in Yemen who is
you really like to do
years
that.
old. Okay.
Well, you said he's not a Houthi. I mean, you went on and on and on and on about how he's just some random fucking innocent kid that you platformed and glazed the fuck up, by the way. Which is, by the way, just terrible journalism. Like, you have KFC in Yemen? Is that the fucking best question you have for someone who's apparently surviving a genocide in Yemen? Who's
To be fair, I went to Tajikistan and they've got KFC there if any of you are interested.
Who's been with the crew of kidnapped hostages, who's apparently partied with the captains. You say, is there KFC in Yemen? Are you fucking kidding me?
All right, here's some clips that you haven't
Hold on,
shown.
besides being like wrong, it's insanely incompetent.
We're going clip for clip. We're going clip for clip. Can you please play this? It's from my subreddit.
Sure.
Here.
Give me a sec. Dan's got to pass it to me. Okay, after this, please, we got to move on to the Nakba thing.
Yeah. Every single victim of Israeli or American violence has to be a pacifist. That is your
do you want me to watch
perspective.
this? I mean, what the fuck, bro? It's 4 minutes, so I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I'll watch like a minute or 2 minutes. Okay?
طبعا جاتني اسئله كثيره ماذا اذا اليهود يقرروا ان يعودوا الى اليمن؟ هل نسمح لهم ولا لا ولا؟ طبعا طبيعي يعني احنا اليمنيين من بايدينا السلام يعني اليمن مسموحه لاي شخص يعيش فيها.
This is like shot like by a fucking like propagandist. What are you talking about? Like, he's all fucking dolled up. He's got makeup on. The lighting is perfect. Yeah, he's like, guys, please, we love the Jews.
Does he even have thing on?
Give me a break. Our problem is not with the Jews, guys.
Buddy, dunking on a fucking 19-year-old living in Yemen. You pick and choose what you think. You pick and choose what you think is appropriate to show.
Well, what do you think about all the shit I showed you? Which do you think he believes, this or that?
I think he believes both. This is not at
all. He both believes the Jews are our friends and also we need to murder them all.
Okay,
he believes the Jews are our friends and we need to murder them all. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
You conflate.
Oh, he said Jews. He in the tweet said this is what we're going to do to Jews.
Perspective. For them, when they talk about Israel, they sometimes reflect it as
and that's
Jews.
The Jews' fault,
but
right?
Listen to me.
And you're blaming the victim.
Because in that interview that I conducted with him, I asked him about how he felt about Jews, anti-Zionist Jews specifically, and he said he loves them. Because
that is such a lie. You're such a liar.
You don't know this person, Ethan.
I watched it. That's not what he said, though. He said if they support Palestine, then I like them. You're lying. You're just lying. You're lying about what he said. You're lying. I've seen that interview. You're lying.
Wait, what do you mean?
He didn't say that. He said if they support Palestine, then that's good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I would also say that I don't just love people who don't support Palestine. I would find it very, very difficult to have, close relationships and form any with a person, especially someone that I don't know at all and have never known, unless they are supportive of Palestine at this point, because it's such an important thing for me. Like, it's a very fucking important thing, and I assume it's even more important for someone who's experienced actually directly the excesses of the Western imperial order.
What? That's what he said.
Okay.
It's fucking materially way different than I love Jews. What the fuck you said?
No, you didn't hear you just repeated what I said.
Go ahead, what'd you say?
I said love, but I think he didn't. I guess he didn't say love.
What did he say? Hold on, Hasan. What did you say he said?
I said that I don't care what your background is. I love them. Jew, Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter. If you are against Israel, I love them. That's what I said. He has no problem with Jews who are pro-Palestine.
That's nowhere close to what you said.
Dude.
Well, you realize you're wrong. You got caught in a lie, so you're revising. It's fine.
What?
All right, let's move on to the Nakba thing.
Dude, I don't care. Dude,
we got to move on, bro.
Ethan, listen to my words very carefully. If he had told me, okay, I hate all Jews unconditionally, I am an anti-Semitic person.
Tweet that.
Okay,
he did tweet
the
stuff
conversation
like that.
would go very differently. But even then, I probably wouldn't be as vicious as you assume.
He literally said that on social media continually.
Because I understand the material conditions and what plays
Jews.
a role in people's recognition of the world. What
nobody needs to fear but Jews, he said. I'm going to shove my gun and kill Jews.
It would also probably be worth, if that was the case, it would make for an interview where you could ask him, like, oh, why do you feel this way? Why are you saying this? Surely you must see that it's much more like the Zionist project and there are many Jewish people around the world who actually feel very differently to Israel,
What? No, he didn't say that.
I'll play it again. You want me to play it again?
Oh, we got the best bit coming up. Don't you worry, guys.
Just play the clip. He said Zionist, but play the fucking clip, Ethan.
Yeah, I'll play it.
Play the clip I sent you without fucking complaining. He's
no,
always too dolled up.
But you want me to watch your clip? I thought, no, we're going to watch my clip.
No, play the fucking clip I sent you. Stop.
By the way, is this, I don't know if this music's claimed, by the way.
It's fine.
It does matter, unfortunately. You're on Twitch where stealing content is fucking regular, but on YouTube there's standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. God forbid, someone might copy strike you, and then their lawyers might demand erroneous.
Which you admitted is sometimes warranted.
Where's the fair use? Mr. Fair Use.
Yeah, do you know what fair use is, you fucking moron? It's using it fairly. There's a big difference between...
Fair use is when you get mad at Redditors criticizing you, so you get your high-powered attorney to fucking sue them and make demands about how they have to release information about their allegiance to
Let me play this for a minute, and then we'll move on. This is the most pathetic terrorist propaganda bullshit I have ever seen, and the fact that...
Also, why is this terrorist propaganda? Like, it's just a kid saying some things.
You actually think this is credible is so hilarious to me.
Look, man,
let's keep it going. No, I love this. This is great.
Just keep playing it. Keep playing it.
Yeah.
Also, one state results in war. Yeah, that one state is Israel.
Sorry, I'm trying. I don't know where the audio went. Oh, why was it? Sorry, hold on. We're having.
I pulled it back up. Taylor Lorenz tweeted, "What's so crazy is that we tried to nab an interview with Rashad, the Yemeni teen who went viral for WAPO, before Hasan the Hun got the scoop. Ethan continues to chastise Hasan for legitimate journalism and an interview that half the MSM was chasing."
Well, first of all, Taylor Lorenz is a fucking hack loser who's obsessed.
Shout out Taylor Lorenz, an absolutely wonderful person, an absolutely genuinely lovely, kind, excellent journalist. You know.
Okay. Of course, you would say that. She, by the way, what was the legitimate? Name one question you asked him that represents legitimate journalism.
Okay, great.
One question.
Great question. What do you feel about anti-Zionist Jews leading many of the anti-Israel protests in the United States of America?
That's your most important journalistic question, which he basically said.
No, you asked me one. I gave you one.
I don't think that. I mean, I find that to be insignificant, especially considering his answer. No follow-up questions?
Wait, what did he actually call her? Did he call her a hack? What did he say?
That's with you, okay? Of course you would say that. She, by the way, what was the legitimate? Name one question you asked him that represents legitimate journalism.
Okay, great.
One question.
Great question. Do you iron it?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying.
I just want to see what he actually says.
Oh, why was it? Sorry, hold on. We're having.
I pulled it back up. Taylor Lorenz tweeted, "What's so crazy is that we tried to nab an interview with Rashad, the Yemeni teen who went viral for WAPO, before Hasan the Hun got the scoop. Ethan continues to chastise Hasan for legitimate journalism and an interview that half the MSM was chasing."
Well, first of all, Taylor Lorenz is a fucking hack loser who's obsessed with you, okay? Of course you would say that. She, by the way, what was the legitimate? Name one question you asked him that represents legitimate journalism.
Okay, great.
One question.
Great question. What do you feel about anti-Zionist Jews leading many of the anti-Israel protests in the United States of America?
That's your most important journalistic question, which he basically said.
No, you asked me one. I gave you one.
I don't think that. I mean, I find that to be insignificant, especially considering his answer. No follow-up questions. Why don't you ask him why don't you ask a follow-up question like,
Ethan,
do you not care if they're Zionist Jews? That they're Israeli Jews that support you?
I don't give a fuck if he cares if there's Zionist Jews or not.
What about? Do you think? Hey, what was the hard-hitting part about asking if he likes One Piece? Was that hard-hitting journalism?
No, it was called humanizing.
That was called cringe as fuck, glazing, pathetic.
Yeah, because you don't like when a fucking brown person gets a little bit of air.
Okay, guys, so I've got a little update for you. I'm going to be on Hasan in 3 hours.
Space, and they look like a human being.
So you're resorting to call me racist now. By the way, this dude's white as fuck. What are you talking about? This dude's whiter than I am.
Also, like Ethan being like, this dude is whiter than I am. Yes, Ethan, his skin may be lighter, but he lives in fucking Yemen, Ethan. You live in a mansion in America.
What the fuck are you talking about, dipshit? Hold on, you accuse me of being racist. Are you talking about this guy? Are you talking about this guy?
Do you think it's appropriate to call your wife a terrorist?
I think you do. No, I don't.
You don't think it's appropriate? Okay.
No.
You have stated time and time again that you believe, to show how pro-Palestine you are, that you believe settlers are valid military targets. Who do you think is protecting the settlers who you...
His lawyer, legitimate military target.
...who claim are valid military targets.
Protecting them, and it's fucking insane.
In the process of their pogroms
my wife
that
out
they're
there
doing.
protecting... Sorry, was Ela out there protecting settlers?
No, she was doing a night raid, as a matter of fact. And I didn't know any of this until recently, for the record, until a couple months ago.
Yeah, you're going to do the Raider of Ramallah snark bullshit? Go on, yeah.
By the way, calling her the Raider of Ramallah is just funny, because I have to say, in both of my videos, I note that Ethan said... that he is proud of what his wife did. He doesn't say that he has a problem with it. He doesn't say that he has a... He doesn't say that she is like... he doesn't say... He literally says that he is proud of what she did. And like categorically, if you are in the Israeli military, you are operating in service. This is like when Lonabox got upset that I was like calling the IOF is an accurate description. Because even he had to fucking admit that what Israel actually does is spends its time occupying Palestinian land. Like, that's what it does. It spends its time occupying Palestinian land. The Israeli soldiers who are there are not, like, just having a fun sing-song, you know, holding fucking hands.
Your community doesn't harass anyone. She was 18 years old. She went on a ride-along to Ramallah for some kind of fucking mission. She stayed in the car, and then they went back, and that's all that happened. She's 18 years old, though. She's a secretary.
Taking someone hostage, you called him it, by the way. That person was a Palestinian living in his own, own fucking home. And your wife went on a raid to Ramallah, which you have called a terror city.
Yeah, that was an old clip. I don't think Ramallah's a
valid military target in that process because you've said that settlers are valid military targets. Do you think your wife is a valid military target? Do you think your wife is a terrorist?
She's not a West Bank settler. She's not a West Bank settler.
But she's in the...
So West Bank settlers are valid military targets because of their degrees in militarism. Also, I mean, if Shakespeare wants to have me on, I'd love that. I've seen the messaging in chat, so I think that'd be interesting if they want to do it. I mean, I'd like to. But yeah, also like a soldier who's actually there is much more of a fucking target, you know?
The West Bank.
Bad Empanada thinks she is. Bad Empanada thinks she's valid. Your friends over at Second Thought think that she's a valid target.
You think she's a valid military target? That's
do you think she's a valid military target? Do you think she's a valid military target?
I do not, as a matter of fact. I don't.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Right, can we please move on to the...
I don't know why Hasan said that. I mean, like, currently, yeah, it's wrong to say that she was probably a valid military target, like, right fucking now, because she's not in the West Bank and, like, acting in a degree of militarism. But while she served, 100%, like, you are an Israeli soldier operating in the West Bank. And by the way, the West Bank is the West Bank is occupied fucking land.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Bro, you're making this unwatchable.
Listen to me. Okay?
We got to move on.
How does this make sense in your mind? You say Israel is doing genocide. She has participated in the kidnapping of a Palestinian in the West Bank. You say
you don't know who was kidnapped and for what reason.
We don't the settlers.
Well, we don't know who is.
Protects the settlers, Ethan. Your wife did.
Kidnapped. They arrested somebody. We don't know what happened or what they did.
So
what if he fucking stabbed civilians? Doesn't that happen? Do Palestinian terrorists never stab and blow up civilians?
They're placed under military detention. They are not actually placed. They do not go through a civil court process.
Do Palestinian terrorists ever commit violence on civilians?
Yes, Ethan, that may be true that there are people who engage in militant resistance, but the vast majority of Palestinians being targeted in the West Bank are not engaged in militant resistance. There are literally people being fucking shot. Like, I mean, that kid who was throwing stones that harmed no one, who was killed a few days ago. Like, what do you say? Like, how do you care? How are you sitting there and trying to make out as if they're terrorists? It's like this point of what I was saying earlier. People will focus and say, hey, look, there's these people who do this violence. How the fuck do you think that changes? Like, people being in other people's land, you know?
Weren't them being arrested?
Are not in the West Bank.
You don't know anything about this person or this raid.
In Ramallah, in Palestinian territory, your wife was an illegal occupier of a terrorist organization, also known as the Israeli Occupying Force, Ethan. Now, I know people that have also served in the Israeli Occupying Force, as a matter of fact. I've relied on breaking the silence.
By the way, her name is Hila. I don't know if you keep doing your wife. Why do you do that? Why do you keep referring to her as my wife? It's bizarre.
Okay, Hila, whatever, who cares?
Well, it just belies a really bizarre thing.
Stop
it's not random at all. It says a lot.
Listen to my words. Listen to my words.
Please.
I have no issue with someone as long as they have recognized their mistakes, as long as they recognize that that was wrong. What I take issue with is consistently defending Israel. You have also participated in the defense of Israel. It makes no sense. You're inconsistent. You say it's a genocide, but people can't resist militarily. You say it's a genocide, but all of the people who are outspoken are vile anti-Semites. Who is supposed to be able to resist against this genocide? Do you actually think it's a genocide?
Hila was doing mandatory military service. What should she have done?
I mean, in the video, she says that she could have got out of it, which is something that I didn't even bring up. But also, it's just the fact of you can refuse. You can literally refuse. This is similar to Ethan assuming there must have been mass-conducted assaults on October the 7th because there are deceased people who can't come forward. I mean, I guess in the sense of, like, Ethan just sort of saying things that, yeah, I guess it's like they're guilty, you know, until proven innocent. You know?
There's numerous options. 1, religious exemption. 2, refusing to serve. But even then, I don't have a problem with her being...
Shakespeare said, also, what Yemen is doing is going with the blockade is legal under international law, Article 51 of the UN Convention. I mean, it makes total sense. They are acting against genocide. Also, I'm really sorry, guys. I have to go pee. I am busting again. It's absolutely terrible. I have a weak constitution. I'll be back very shortly. Right, yes, to answer any serious questions, yep, hands are washed, so don't start talking big. Don't start talking big. Yeah, the pause frame is really funny.
Socially conditioned into thinking that this is appropriate. I have a problem with what she's saying now. I have a problem with how she reflects on that and doesn't realize that was an unjustifiable thing to do. Those are real human beings.
You can talk to her, debate about it. I don't know what you're even referring to. Okay?
What?
I don't even know what the fuck you're referring to. You're just calling my wife a terrorist. Like, well, give me a break. No. She mandatory. Let me ask you a question.
She's
Hassan,
talking on your podcast
please, you gotta let me talk.
How she went on a raid. She was
You
bored.
have to let me talk. The fact that you're just talking over me and being louder does not mean you're right. I promise.
What?
being louder and talking more does not mean you're right. Okay? It's good to listen to what I have to say.
Okay.
She's part of mandatory conscription.
Did Hila not volunteer? Did Hila not volunteer to go to the West Bank on a raid because she was bored in Ramallah?
Yeah, she's 18. It's understandable.
Okay.
We don't know what that guy did, though. We don't know what
so he could have been a vicious terrorist
monster.
What if he killed
people? Yeah. What if he killed people? Of course. If he killed people, of course he would be worthy of being arrested.
Is Ramallah a part of Israeli territory?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's under occupation. No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation, right?
Okay. So why was your wife in Ramallah?
Maybe are getting a terrorist, killing civilians.
She was occupying another people's land and enforcing an occupation regime. She worked for a senior IOF terrorist.
She sat
it's
in
not
a car.
complicated, Ethan.
She sat in a car and didn't even leave it and never
Your
did it
wife
again.
participated in an illegal raid according to international human rights. That is the reality. Now, I understand.
Are you upset if this person killed like a child? Would you be upset if this person they arrested like stabbed people? Like you don't know what you're talking about.
Talk about how fucked up
fine. My
that
wife's
was.
a terrorist, bro. What the fuck? It's so boring.
Stop. Listen to my words. If she were to talk about
my wife is a
how fucked up
terrorist.
that is, as many former IDF vets have on breaking the silence. If she talked about the night.
And like, yeah, I mean, she is just. I mean, I'm glad Ethan admits it. You know, I'm glad that Ethan admits it. You know,
raid that she participated in the same way that.
Just like Frogan says, only the ones that regret it.
I would have no issue with her.
You hope she gets
PTSD too? Change. Okay.
I don't condone the raid, but I mean, see, neither of us have any information about like what actually happened. You know what I mean?
There is no. You don't understand. She is illegally there. She is not supposed to be there.
She's a terrorist.
It doesn't matter. Her and her entire brigade was not supposed to be there. That is an act of terror.
I don't think she knew what they were doing. I don't think she knew what they were doing or where they were going.
My friend mentioned to this. I don't think she knew what she was doing. Is a real serious get out of jail free card of just saying, well, she didn't know what she was doing. Do you not think, I think if I had to serve in like any form of British Army, I might want to have a bit of an idea what I was doing, you know? I might want to do Ethan sleeping in the doghouse, the tattoo, all that goodwill from the tattoo is out the window.
She participated in.
I don't think she knew where they were going or what they were doing.
What she participated in is called.
Okay, she's a terrorist, bro. Please, we got to move on.
The reason why the Israeli occupying force, participated.
But like, also, by the way, if you think she is a terrorist, you said that she was proud and literally used this as a means to try and dunk on Hasan for not serving in the fucking Turkish military, you know?
People want to watch this.
Raids in the West Bank.
You're making this unwatchable.
A constant feeling of terror.
Talking more does not make you right. Okay.
The reason why the Israeli occupying force participates in night raids is to create a constant sense of terror upon the Palestinians.
We don't condone it. She was 19. She was doing military conscription. She didn't know where they were going or what they were doing.
Listen to me.
Thank you.
She knew what they were doing from that video, by the way. This is just the whole point. Ethan will admit things, but he has to backtrack on them.
No, I'm listening, but you just keep repeating yourself. This is what you do.
The reason why I know. The reason why I know that. You want to know why I know that?
Stop. Do you want this to be unwatchable? Is that what you want?
What?
Do you want this to be unwatchable?
The reason why I know that, Ethan, is because of the silence veterans who have come out and spoken out against this practice. That's why I know that.
Hasan, you say that Hila could have gone to jail and done a conscientious objection instead of joining the army. Why do you pay taxes?
What?
Why do you pay taxes to the United States government?
This is your big argument, Ethan?
Answer the question.
Taxes and
I liked your message, members go. I know what he's about to say here, but just on this fucking point of paying taxes. By the way, with conscientiously objecting, yes, you will go to prison for a while, but if you just never paid your taxes for the rest of your life, you literally couldn't exist. Like, the IOF, you might keep going back to prison, yes, but it won't only probably be for about a year, all in all, or throughout the period of a year. But when it comes to fucking not paying your taxes, you will literally just go to prison over and over again. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. We would all rather not pay taxes, but unfortunately, you will go to prison unlimited times if you don't pay your fucking things.
Morally culpable, I know. That's why I try to fucking fight against.
Why don't you go to jail?
Doing this shit
why don't you stand up for your? Hold on. Why don't you stand up for your principles and go to jail for it?
Because it would not actually stop. Okay, it would not actually stop. The reason why I'm saying, I don't take issue with Hila's fucking actions then, as long as, just like you said, she was just 19 years old. I take issue with the fact that she's...
Exactly. Like, Ilan Pappé served in the Israeli military, and now it's a bad thing, but, he kind of says now, hey, Israel is totally immoral and unacceptable, and, like... understands why what he did was wrong. He's not out there saying he's proud of her service and saying that the IOF... Hila said that the IOF is a necessity, that people who don't do it are selfish.
still defends it on principle. She says the
What did she
Israeli
say?
occupying force is not a terror organization. You have a disagreement with him. Or
Well,
her,
I
sorry.
think I can see it from her perspective too, which is like, the problem with you is that everything's black and
But you
white.
can't see it from Rashid al-Haddad's perspective, and you know
he's
for
a
a
fucking
fucking fact
terrorist
that your
because he
audience
wants to
also
kill
doesn't see
Jews.
it, and
And you
that's
said
why
it's like
you can
Anne
fucking
Frank.
constantly claim that he is a terrorist, whereas
Oh
you're
my
like,
God,
oh,
bro!
well, it's
Please,
complicated.
I want this to be watchable. Okay, let's move on, please.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. You made your
Got
point.
it.
You made your point. Okay. So specifically, you said this.
I mean, in a sense, I also agree with you with taxes being better for the betterment of a community. It's just unfortunate that in England, taxes do not work in that way and are currently being used in service of genocide much more than they do anything else,
Which is, you said, in the context puke, you said this was the worst thing I did. So let me play it, okay? And then we can discuss.
More Jews displaced than Palestinians.
Let me go back
in
just
1948
just to give the whole context.
expelled them in massive amounts following the
Right, before we start this, I just need to grab one book. Oh no! Oh no! Fuck! Fuck! Not good. I don't have my book. I'm not going to go look for it as well. I'll just return to the stream. It's fine. I'll survive without the book.
1948 war. In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians.
This was one of the
during
worst pieces of misinformation I've seen in the fucking context puke. For the record, it was crazy.
This specific. So Mike, again, nicely done. Let this guy hold your hand and formulate your opinions, but he's not here to help you, okay? So you tell me what was wrong with what was misinformation about saying that 900,000 Jews were displaced?
You make a comparison between Planned Dalit, which is a planned ethnic cleansing campaign, to one, horrify Palestinians inside of villages that had actually no arms whatsoever because they had specific peace agreements that they've done with Jewish villages.
What was
by
the
killing them,
exaggeration?
including
No,
by,
this isn't a
by
comparison
massacring
question.
them, and then,
What was the
and then
hell, bro?
letting
You are
survivors
incapable
tell the
of
tale.
answering anything.
You asked me a question, and I can't even fucking answer it.
You're
What are
not
you doing?
answering it. You're not. You're just going on and on.
I am answering it. Ethan.
What was the exaggeration?
Ethan, sit the fuck
About
down and
the
listen to the history
historical fact
lesson.
of
Okay? You're going to learn a little bit right now. Okay? Deir Yassin is Tantura. These are two very famous massacres that took place.
Jesus, Matt, thank you very much for that donation. That's a huge donation. Incredibly kind. Thank you so much.
The brigades, the militant brigades, the Zionist brigades that then formed the IDF, including some that personally called themselves terrorists, by the way, Lihi and Irgun, went in and did horrifying mass rape, kidnappings, throwing people in ovens. And then the survivors left to tell the tale. In that process, these brigades would go to each individual city and forcibly ethnically cleanse 750,000 Palestinians. This is known as the Nakba.
What the fuck does that have to do with the Jewish refugees? Answer that question.
Literally fucking everything. Right. Okay. So, I mean, I'll talk more as this goes on and on and on. But the key difference here is that this was part of what the Zionist project always was. Displacement began long before 1948. It was the structural end goal of the Zionist project. It was always going to end in this way. There are so many examples of how the early Zionists were displacing Palestinians, how they had much larger goals to establish a state within Palestine that had no place for the Palestinian people, right? And yet you are sat here going, well, this is the same as what happened to Arab Jewish people. It is not, for many different reasons. Hasan has elucidated a few of them here.
Do you think that is even remotely comparable to Jewish people leaving, sometimes voluntarily and sometimes because their governments had made deals with
how many black volunteers?
There's also, so there's quite a key mixture of all of these things. So people did leave voluntarily. But by the way, so I was having a discussion with this. So Joseph Massad, in his work, which are Zionism's Internal Others, here's a JSTOR link to it. You need JSTOR to access it. I don't recommend paying like the fee for the article. I think you can pay for like a cheapish membership. It's what I did when I didn't have one. So the JSTOR article makes the claim that hold on, I'll just I'll just get it up so I can say it for sure. Oh, there is actually a book I fucking need as well. Right. Okay, right, here we go. Okay. There's a big mixture of all of these things. The first non-European Jews recruited to Palestine were 2,000 Yemeni Jews between 1910 and 1914. Their immigration was proposed in 1907 in the debate over the use of Arab labour in Ashkenazi settlements. Self-described socialist Zionists stressed the principle of exclusive avodah irvet Hebrew labour as the condition for the economic normalization of the Jewish people, and the cheap Palestinian labour employed in the early settlements was seen as corrupting Zionist ideals. It was in this context of this debate that Ashkenazi Zionist Shmuel Yavneli stated that Yemeni Jewish labour can take the place of the Arabs, but Yemenis were found to be unsuitable workers and were expelled from many settlements. Some were later allowed to work in settlements in the south, provided they built their dwellings outside. The presence of Yemeni Jews was so disturbing to the Ashkenazi leadership that even Ahad Ham, his name's Asher Ginsburg, the renowned Zionist humanist, worried that Yemenite immigration affects the nature of the Zionist settlement by dint of their different culture and mentality. The Zionist project, and there's also another quote which I'll bring up. I actually need to grab a book, 1 second. Right, so the next quote, this used to belong to LSE Library. It's Being Israeli by Gershon Shafir and Yoav Peled. And what does it talk about? It's on around page 77, so let me get there. And I think that this is important to read out. So on page 77 of Being Israeli, written by 2 Israeli people, what he says is, and while relations between... Okay, so this is it. This influx was by no means a spontaneous event. It was orchestrated and carried out by the newly established state of Israel. In the wake of the Holocaust and the barring of emigration from communist Eastern Europe, resorted to the hardly tapped demographic, quantitative potential of Middle Eastern and North African Jews. By the way, this is always the key point to note. Why did all of the... if Israel was this saviour place, saving people from monstrous, barbarous Arabs, why did they only happen after the end of the Second World War? Because Israel didn't actually want to do with these people. They just thought that they were awful. And while relations between these Jews and the states in which they were residing were indeed becoming tense due to the Jewish-Palestinian conflict, Israel's motivation in evacuating them was not, in the words of a leading Israeli politician, the need to rescue them, but the need to create a Hebrew majority in Eretz Israel, cited in Swirsky 1995-35 and see also 970-10. The decision to transplant the Jewish communities of the Middle East to Israel did not involve a change of heart with respect to their cultural qualities and was not taken without misgivings. No less a figure than David Ben-Gurion is reported as saying in the mid-1960s, "The Moroccan Jew took a lot from the Moroccan Arab. The culture of Morocco I would not like to have here, and I don't see what contribution present Persians have to make. We do not want Israelis to become Arabs. We are in duty bound to fight against the spirit of the Levant, which corrupts individuals and societies, and preserve the authentic Jewish values as they crystallized in the evidently European diaspora." And indirectly, in the midst of the Operation Kibbutz Galoyot, ingathering of exiles, that is in the early 1950s, Ben-Gurion cried out that the country was in danger of the Levantinization because the flood of primitive panicky Oriental Jews was not matched by a comparable flow of volunteer Jews from the trained West, but the Arabs were beaten precisely because they were Levantinized. And if there was no prospect of compensating contribution from the West, the tide of Eastern immigration into Israel should have been controlled and not whipped up artificially. Smuha, 1978-88, 372-3. Basically, what they are saying here is that when they brought over these people, they were, sorry, I keep saying these people, Mizrahi Jewish people brought over from Europe. They were brought over specifically to fill the fact that most of the Jewish people in Europe had been exterminated or banned from emigrating from communist Russia, coming to Israel to settle for the longest time. And so when you talk about this, basically, Ethan bringing this up and being like, it's because of the Arab anti-Semitism, there is so much more complexity to it. There is, of course, the thing that is mentioned here by Hasan, but there is also so much more to it. There's also a Wikipedia article about this. I said I don't cite Wikipedia that much, but look at this. Just read this. It was after these movements that the World Zionist Organization, so this is referring to the same thing, sent Shmuel Yavanelli to Yemen to encourage Jews to immigrate to Palestine. Yavanelli reached Yemen at the beginning of 1911 and returned in April. Due to Yavanelli's effort, 1,000 Jews left central and southern Yemen. This was basically two things culminating together, you know? And I'm not saying that anti-Semitism and bigotry didn't rise, but this was specifically in the context of what... This was specifically in the context of what was happening in the Middle East. The fact that many Middle Eastern countries felt specific animosity towards the British, who had colonized the Middle East along with the French. And also, in certain places, Jewish people were seen as collaborators with these regimes, so they were admonished because of it. For example, in the case of Algeria, I think is the biggest example. There's also, in the case of Morocco, oh God, right, I'm just going to have to pull up a Google document, because this is one of the parts where I did write some stuff, because, you know what, this is not my area of expertise, this part, because I didn't learn about this to just deal with fucking talking points. Is the funny thing. There's one called Operate, my friend told me about this, so shout out Emily. Here we go. The ascension of Hasan II enabled negotiations to begin in secret between Mossad's Miscreant division and the Moroccan authorities. Prince Moualai Ali and Labour Minister, together with the American organization, an economic agreement was agreed between Israel and Morocco, with the agreement of Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, King Hasan II, whereby $500,000 would be paid as a down payment, plus $100 for the first 50,000 Jewish people, and then $250 thereafter. Look, we'll go into more, but what I am saying is there are complexities and nuances to this. And also, I just wanted to say thank you very much, Keyshawn Spinks. Thanks for constantly trying to keep people knowledge. Anti-intellectualism will not stop anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, anti-intellectualism is mega on the increase, you know. I mentioned this a lot in my Elika Le Bon thing. So much.
Or France. How many of the 900,000 left voluntarily?
I don't know the exact number of how many left voluntarily.
Take a guess. Take a guess.
I would suspect that a big chunk of them, you're going to say, did not leave voluntarily, but that is not the case.
Well, you're lying and you're fucking dead wrong. You brought up the fact that I talked about what happened in Iraq. So let me give you a timeline of what happened in Iraq. 1932, they gained independence. 1934, Hebrew is banned. Jews are fired from government positions. 1938.
Also, why would... This is particularly interesting, because banning Hebrew is a very interesting decision, because what, are they talking about, like, the use of biblical Hebrew? Because also Hebrew would not have been widely spoken amongst these Jewish communities, surely? I mean, yeah. Let me just... There was something I wanted to look up, but I've forgotten now, so it doesn't matter, so I'll just go back to watching this.
Zionist activity is outlawed. Crimes as trivial as possessing a biblical map of the Holy Land will send you to jail. The Farhud program, inspired by neo-Nazis, Rashid al-Khalini, killed 180 Jews. Hundreds were injured. Widespread looting, property damage. 1947, Jews were banned from immigrating because they didn't want them to go strengthen the state of Israel, and they wanted to hold them prisoners against Israel and the West. In 1948, the war begins. Jewish banks were forbidden to transact with foreign countries. Jews were arrested for Zionist activity.
And also because they went to... it wasn't just they were strengthening the Zionist project. They went to displace Palestinians, by the way.
For economic crimes. They were fines that were paid to the Ministry of Defense. In 1949...
No, they wouldn't have spoke Yiddish, I don't think. They would have spoken... Someone else might be more of an expert on this, but they would not have spoken Yiddish, because Yiddish was a European language.
A month after taking office, the British learned that they were planning to expel the Jews from Iraq before they even left. Does this sound like voluntary? Does this sound voluntary?
Okay,
does that sound voluntary?
Dan, I sent you a clip. You can play.
No.
One of the most important scholars on this issue is an Iraqi Jew by the name of Avi Shlaim.
Yeah, I love this. Let's listen to
him. Okay, let's listen to it.
Yeah.
Jews were convinced that Israel had a hand in uprooting them. After the 1948 war, there was
Oh yeah, Judeo-Arabic. There's really interesting stuff in this about the no-state solution, talking about like the emergence of... Like, Israel erases so much Jewish culture from so many different places, and it claims like the diaspora of Jewish people was all like this horrible thing. I just want to see if he mentions Mizrahi Arab. I just want to see if there's... no, there's actually nothing here about it. Unfortunately. There's a good book, though. I liked it.
Popular hostility towards the Jews in Iraq. 5 bombs exploded in Jewish sites. The series of bombs created a panic which led more and more Jews to register to leave the country. I met an elderly friend of my mother's, an Iraqi Jew called Yaakov Karkukli, who had been in the Zionist underground. One member of his group, Yosef Basri, a very, very intelligent
Jewish lawyer, and his assistant, Shalom Saleh Shalom, were responsible for 3 out of the 5 bombs. Basri's controller was an Israeli intelligence officer.
And let's.
So just looking it up, Google turns the Arabic, Persian / Judeo-Persian, Judeo-Tat, Hebrew eventually would have been later on. And also they would have used it, as to say, Hebrew would have been used for like praying and such.
Granted, what he's saying is true, and that 3 of the 5 bombs were done by Zionists, right? How does that explain 150,000 people leaving the fucking country? Why? Thousands of years of civilization that have been there, 2,000 years, just picking up and leaving, almost virtually gone. How does that explain that?
Why is it that the Israeli government? Why is it the Israeli government benefited from creating instability and making it seem as though these countries were uninhabitable? And why do you think?
There's also another thing which is not mentioned here, but by the way, Jewish people also wanted to participate, by the way, in nationalism. Nationalism was obviously very much closed off because nationalism in many senses is often, especially if it's an interpretation from European nationalism, it is very much an interpretation that is like there is a nation that is normally ethnically homogenous, and obviously Jewish people do not belong to that ethnically homogenous nation in the Middle East. And so for Jewish people, a lot of them thought, well, we can go over and experience nationalism in the state of Israel. So people did do that, you know. There are many different reasons that people moved around. Oh yeah, I remember what I was meant to search. Just wanted to see if I can find this. Here we go. The first Mizrahi encounter with the Israeli state racism dates to their recruitment in their home countries, where the conditions of the camps in which they were placed before being transported to Israel, for example, were extremely poor. These were actually atrocious. When information of anti-Mizrahi discrimination in Israel became known among North African Jews, immigration declined. A Jewish agency emissary noted that the first thing one notices now is the obvious reluctance to go to Israel, and that the people virtually have to be taken there by force. Ben-Gurion himself vented the already common views on the Mizrahim at a meeting in writers blah 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 blah. But more than Hitler hurt the Jewish people, whom he knew and hated, he injured the Jewish state, which he never anticipated. He had annihilated the carrier and the main Jewish central constructive power of the Jewish state. Also, by the way, did you know that Mizrahi Jewish people were excluded from Holocaust memory until the 1970s? That's spoken about in Tom Segev's The 7th Million. I'm just going to see if I can find where Segev quotes from. That's from Eli Peleg's report, Central Zionist Archives, cited in Segev 1949. So I think that means 1949, The First Israelis by Tom Segev, but I don't 100% know.
That despite the fact that Iraq and numerous other countries have offered Israelis or Jews a right to return, why has that failed on the Israeli front for numerous reasons? I know why.
Let me tell you an inconvenient fact for you, Hasan. Let me tell you an inconvenient fact.
I wonder why that happened right as
Before
Israel
the bombs
was being
went
established.
Before the bombs went off, 100,000 of the 125 Jews were already registered to leave. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, Jews wanted to go to Israel, Ethan. They liked the idea.
Okay, great. So let me hear what
Israel.
okay.
They got to exercise supremacy in that land and were promised and sold a vision. Ben-Gurion wrote about the horrific conditions in his diaries. Did he? I mean, Joseph Haddad in Zionism's... Joseph Mossad, not Yosef Haddad. Whoops. Talks about it in there. You are such a bigot, dude. You say any military member deserves a target from terrorists when the entire country has military... They are serving in the military. I don't think that makes me a bigot.
Hey, so
you're Israel. What do you mean?
You're a liar. You're a disgusting fucking propagandist liar. Here's what Avi Schleim actually said.
My research, I established
Scumbag.
one hand grenade was lobbed by a young activist in the Istiklal party, which wanted to expel the Jews from Iraq and confiscate the properties. And another hand grenade was lobbed into the Masuda Shem Tov synagogue, and there 4 people were killed. And he was a criminal who had a grudge against the Jews, and it had nothing to do with the Mossad.
Did you hear that? The first 2 had nothing to do with the Mossad. But let's continue to listen to the respected scholar, Avi Schleim, you fucking liar.
Nope,
you listen to this fucking historian. Yes, you said they left by choice. They left because of Zionism. They left because they were being threatened. Let's hear what your respected historian has to say, you liar.
That's right.
Listen.
All this is true. The main reason for the exodus was not the bombs, it was persecution by the government. And I concede that. It's not part of my argument that the bombs were the main reason for the liquidation of this community. But my answer to my Zionist critics is, even if I knew for certain that not a single Iraqi Jew left Iraq to go to Israel because of the bombs, I would still think this is a real indictment of the state of Israel. Because
And by the way, that completely fits with that thing I said about the rescue narrative, you know? the rescue narrative thing that I mentioned, this point about like how a senior Israeli politician on page 77 of Being Israeli is quoted as saying that this was not about rescuing Jewish people, but it was a good narrative for Israel. And it is. It's a massive fucking propaganda boon now. They constantly go on about how, like, as Ethan does, they go like, well, they were displaced, so that makes what Israel did in 1948 okay, or that it's comparable, but it's just not.
Israel was created to provide a safe haven for Jews, not to be harassing and threatening Jews in other countries.
By the way, he said, and I'll quote it for you, we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe. He wrote that in his book, 3 Worlds. Have you read that book?
No, I have not read 3 Worlds.
Okay, well, you're using a lot of source from it. It's a book that he wrote about his migration.
He wrote about this. But go on.
Have you read any of the other ones?
Yes.
Really? Which ones?
I've only ever read one thing from Avi Schleim, which is the debate about 1948.
Book that I'm referencing is from the Iron Wall.
3 Worlds, okay? He writes about his time in Iraq,
Memoirs of an
writes
Arab
about his
Jew.
time
It's the
in
newest
Israel,
book, I know.
he writes about his time in the UK. In 3 Worlds, he writes about his own family, and he just...
Thank you, ChatGPT. You are my best friend. You are the debate payer.
Describes their departure from Iraq as traumatic, disorienting, and not voluntary. They were not proud Zionist migrations. They were leaving out of fear.
Ethan.
He said that himself.
Ethan.
He said, we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
You are...
And also, by the way, just a key point here. Who had established these governments and political systems in the Middle East? Who had, gone into these places and said, we need to look after you and set up the governments here, the political systems? Who had established a settler colony, which was inextricably related from Judaism, because they said, we are going to establish you a Jewish state in the Middle East? Who did that? Who said that? Who was it who had then inflicted horrors on people in the Middle East? Who was it who promised the Palestinians, the Arab people more generally, lots of different things? And then, I don't know. M, could you send me that, please?
Failing to comprehend a very important reason why I brought up Avi Shlaim, by the way. And here's...
Yeah, because you think he supports your claim, but he absolutely does not.
No,
that's why, because you're a fucking liar.
It's kind of like, as I say, when people talk about Islam as a religion that from all of these years ago, from all of these times ago, has stayed exactly the same. That is this dogmatic thing that is not influenced by the years of colonization, the period of British American imperialism within the region, and would rather have it as this dogmatic, unchanging religion. Like, it's just bollocks. Like, do you not see that all of this stuff is related to what is actually happening in the Middle East at this time? A Jewish settler colony being placed within that fucking land? No, you don't, because you just want to use this as a talking point. It is not serious. It is just a Zionist talking point of going, well, the Arabs did expulsions too.
He absolutely does.
Contend with what I said. No. Contend with what I'm saying. He said we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe. Do you want to explain what he meant by that? Explain what he meant by saying we didn't leave because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
Okay.
Explain to me.
I can't wait to bring up Avi Shlaim on the broadcast to make you fucking look like a dumbass.
I can't wait too. And now explain what he means by that. We did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
Iraqis are not Palestinian. You fucking moron. You racist piece of shit.
W. Hasan.
Because Iraq and the pan-Arabic nationalist movement that arise out of Zionist
You are out of your mind.
Not about Palestinians.
Okay, so what did the Jews in Iraq have to do with fucking Israel? You bigot.
What did the Jewish people have in Iraq to do with it? It doesn't make it acceptable, but what is it to do with it? We are establishing a Jewish state. We, the colonizers who have wrecked your countries, who promised you so many things that we then went back on. I meant the ChatGPT summary, Am.
Oh, out of your mind.
Iraqis.
Dude, you screaming and grandstanding doesn't mean you're right.
Government's racism during the pan-Arabic nationalist movements as a vindication for why, or a comparison as to why Israel had to do the Nakba.
Do you think
fucking
that...
racist piece of shit.
Thanks,
do you think Iraq? Do you think all Arabs have one fucking mind? Is that what you think?
Why the fuck were the Iraqi Jews leaving Iraq in fear?
Of course there were Iraqi Jews that left Iraq in fear.
Because why? Because why? Answer the question. You want to call me racist?
Hold on. So this is from the Holocaust Museum, and it's just saying, the British made a choice not to enter the area, by the way. You can see that there, in the case of Farhud.
Why were Iraqi Jews leaving to go to Israel?
You're a fucking moron who doesn't understand.
That's why they left. They left because I'm a fucking moron.
That Arabs are not one-minded.
Hasan, you coward.
There were numerous
you coward. Answer the question. You're going to call me racist, but you won't answer. Why did the Iraqi Jews leave Iraq?
There were numerous reasons.
Because of anti-Semitism. They hated Jewish people. That had nothing to do with Israel. They were forced to leave. They were chased out. They lived there for thousands of years. They had businesses. They had homes that they were forced to abandon to go to Israel because it was the only fucking place they could. Why would Iraqis hate the Jews living there if they had nothing to do with Zionism or Israel? Why?
Because settler colonialism was already.
That has nothing to do with them. You absolute fucking.
Settler colonialism, of course, has something to do with it. It's just honestly ridiculous. It's just honestly so ridiculous. Settler colonialism has nothing to do with it. Did this not? There were many people, by the way, who felt very strongly about what was happening in Palestine from many other different parts, you know? Many points at which, like, Izzeddin al-Qassam was from Syria.
Dumbass.
Ethan.
What does that have to do with the Iraqi Jews?
Do you think the aliyahs were happening initially?
So it was there. So you're blaming them? Are you blaming the Iraqi Jews who had nothing to do with it? What the fuck is your point?
I'm
you call me
not
racist.
justifying the racism. I'm not justifying it. You're not comprehending
Yes,
my point.
you are. They left because the Iraq turned on them after 1948.
Ethan,
you're materially wrong. You're a liar.
That there were numerous reasons why other countries, I know, hard concept, all Arab, they all have the same mindset.
I know. Let's go over them, genius.
Nationalist movements as states were being
Let's go over them. In Egypt.
Mostly by Western nations.
You want to talk facts? Let's talk facts.
Ethan, you don't know.
In
You
Egypt.
got fucking a ChatGPT summary. Let me explain to you
Hey, Hasan,
so you can fucking not look like a dumbass.
Okay, do you want to listen or do you just want to add home?
No, I want to tell you my perspective.
No, you want to talk. That's the problem. You don't want to listen.
You're
You've
supposed to
talked
be attacking my
plenty.
perspective.
You called me.
Yeah, also, by the way, as someone mentioned, do we talk about settler colonialism, about the Islam conquest? By the way, I actually looked into this because I thought, let me just look into basically what this settler colonialism actually is. Sorry, not what settler colonialism, how people talk about the Arab conquest and its relation to colonialism. There is about one article written, and what it explains is that it is different in the sense that many people who were, quote-unquote, colonized by Islam and during the Islamic conquest, many of these people were allowed to enter into the society and they made massive contributions to the fledgling Islamic society. There are many significant figures who are from different places across places like Africa and such who made humongous contributions to Islam. In the case of colonialism, much more standard practice, the native in every place that was colonized, they did not make any fucking contribution to the new society. But especially in the case of settler colonialism, and this is why it's so funny, because you all bring up settler colonialism like Zionists, and because it's just to you, it is a talking point. It is like a playground thing of going, you call us colonial, so you're colonial. You're the baddies. Colonial. It's shit. Because like Lonerbox, you don't know what settler colonialism is. Settler colonialism refers to a specific mode of colonization that, rather than being focused on economic exploitation, is much more focused on the elimination of the indigenous people. That would have no relationship with Islam and its conquest at all. It was not a concept that would have been done there.
You're racist, bro. The least you can do is shut the fuck up and listen to me talk, okay? The Iraqi Jews left because they were in fear of anti-Semitism. They had nothing to do with Israel or Zionism. The Arabs in Iraq, the Iraqis, turned on them because of what happened in the war in 1948. That had nothing to do with them. So if you want to blame the Jews for their own anti-Semitism, you go right ahead, but that's racism. Now let's talk about Egypt.
Recognize that.
No, you're not. You are absolutely not. In Egypt, 75,000 Jews were displaced. Okay.
Do you know Jewish people within Egyptian society prior to this held high positions within the society? And same with Iraq, actually. They held high positions and they had, their experience wasn't perfect, but under the Ottoman Empire, it was definitely better than that of Europe. And anyone who is saying shit like this, anyone who dares to compare the two of them is utterly fucking ridiculous, because the Europeans exterminated 6 million Jewish people and did humongous fucking pogroms. This is more general, because Ethan isn't doing it.
Following anti-Jewish riots and bombs in Egypt.
Palestinians? Is Egypt Palestinians? Is Iraq Palestinians? Why were the Palestinians never allowed to return?
It's got nothing to do with that. They were forced to go there by the Arab countries.
The Jews that were expelled or left.
It's also like, why is Ethan bringing this up? Like, Hasan is making his clear point here, but it just kind of shows you. Ethan brings this up as a talking point. Hasan is saying, hey, this is something that you shouldn't be talking about in the context of this because you are spreading the exact Zionist propaganda as this is used to minimize the experience of the Palestinians and justify it.
On their own, voluntarily. These are completely separate countries.
Nobody's justifying the Nakba. No one is justifying the Nakba. I'm explaining how it's fucking insanely racist to discredit the plight, the running of discrimination.
Discredit the plight.
But I'm not justifying the Nakba. You seem to be justifying why Jews were chased out of their home country.
No, I'm not, Ethan.
Why'd they leave?
Why'd they leave? You think
Why'd they leave?
Hasan has literally said over and over again, rising tensions, rising anti-Semitism, and all of these things.
think that because you want to drive home a point that this is
Why did they leave their communities that have been there for 2,000 years, leaving their money, their businesses, their homes? Why did they leave?
Do you think Iraq is Palestine? Do you think Egypt is Palestine?
Nobody's defending the Nakba.
Do you think that all Arabs are operating on antiquated anti-Semitism? And if your answer is yes, why the fuck did Jews find the Ottoman Empire to be a safe haven for fucking hundreds of years?
Let's talk about the last 100 years.
In Western
That's great.
Europe,
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire was great for the Jews.
Yeah, so if you admit that the Ottoman Empire, the experience of being a Jew in the Ottoman Empire was materially a lot better than prior, why is it that all of a sudden, as Britain comes in along with France and breaks up the Middle East and establishes, like, when he's talking about what's happening in Egypt, I assume it was under the British king, right? The last king of Egypt was Farouk? Farouk would have been the last king of Egypt, right? Anti-Jewish violence, Egypt. Yeah, this was under a British government. This was under a British established government.
Let's talk about the last 100 years. Let's talk about 19.
Did you know also on the topic of the Ottoman Empire was not like an amazing safe haven, but it was a lot fucking better than Europe. And if you are laughing at that and going like, oh, those Ottomans were bad, the Ottomans did bad things. They treated people differently. The Ottoman concept of tolerance was flimsy at times, but it was most certainly better than doing the fucking Holocaust.
1948. Anti-Jewish riots broke out after the war. Hasan, you need to shut the fuck up and listen, okay?
Oh
after the war.
Referring to the Nakba as the war?
After the war, okay, in 1948, there was anti-Jewish riots and bombs in Egypt. Why was that? Because of the Jews? The Jews brought it on themselves? Following the establishment
of Israel? I never made that inference. What are you talking about?
Of course you did.
No, I didn't. I did not make that inference at all.
So they left because Zionism.
No, Ethan, if you were to listen to my words, and I use them very carefully, even though I get heated sometimes.
Careful, right.
Okay? Egypt, Iraq, Morocco, each of these countries where Jews lived in the MENA region all the way to the Levant had different reasons. Some of them were direct pogroms. Others were the colonial.
You are a tangibly, historically.
Do you think that?
You are a tangibly, historically liar.
And I feel that some of them were because of pogroms. You're not hearing anything I'm saying. You're so conditioned into saying liar.
No.
You're undermining your own point.
The amount that left because of Zionism was minute. They were chased out.
Ethan.
They were forced to become Zionists by their oppressors because they had nowhere else to go. In Egypt, following the establishment of Israel in May 1940.
By the way, also loads and loads of them went to America. 300,000 went to America, and I'm sure that many more of them would have gone to America if the option was there.
None of these countries are Palestine.
And of course, it's awful, but people associated Jewish people with colonialism, of course, because the Zionist project had only survived because of the British. The British, there's this statistic about this percentage of during the Palestinian revolt that like the entire military, political and economic elite of Palestine were either wounded, killed or imprisoned by the British, or like the vast majority of it during the Great Arab Revolt. So many people suffered during that time. Israel allowed them to send in death squads. So are you really surprised that people began to associate Jewish people? It's a lizard brain reaction. It is not about justifying and making it acceptable, but yeah. Do you believe the British Empire did the Holocaust? Why do you keep throwing all Europeans in with the Nazis? I don't think the British Empire did the Holocaust. I'm not saying that, but there was anti-Semitism in Britain. But there was also like anti-Semitism was across Europe, by the way, as well. What's the example? Hold on. We had discriminatory laws against Jews. For example, the Aliens Act of 1905. There is a British Conservative politician whose name escapes me. But yeah. And also, by the way, we did also do many things, as people are now noting, that are akin to many of the bad things that were done around the world to many other people who were not Jewish.
That is an insanely irrelevant point. A series of bombs targeted Jewish areas in Cairo between June and September. They killed 70 Jews, injured 200. They confiscated Jewish-owned businesses and synagogues were attacked and destroyed. Okay?
Ethan,
in 1956, the Suez
one
crisis.
is direct violence, direct planned violence and an extermination campaign. The other
approximately 25,000 Jews were expelled from Egypt.
Falsely misplaced hostility.
25,000 Jews were expelled
from other countries.
So are you blaming them?
You don't understand this, and
are you blaming the Jews for getting? Are you blaming the Jews for being expelled from Egypt? 25,000 of them.
No, Ethan. If you listen to my words, you would understand.
So what is it I exaggerated about? 900,000 Jews were displaced.
Because you are making a comparison with different countries versus one singular force that planned an extermination campaign, planned an ethnic cleansing campaign. Other countries are other countries and the reaction to it, or other countries and the previous hostility towards Jews have nothing to do with Palestinians. So making this comparison
not. That's
is
why it's
gross.
anti-Semitic. That's why it's anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with Palestine, but they still got kicked out for being Jewish. That's literally what anti-Semitism.
It's like
1,000 Jews in Egypt were arrested and detained without charges. The government seized 500 Jewish-owned businesses and froze bank accounts. Expelled Jews were compelled to sign a declaration donating their property to the Egyptian state and were allowed to take only minimal personal belongings. In Algeria, 130,000 Jews were expelled.
They're
On the
not,
independence,
that's not Palestine. They're not. They're just Arabs. They're not the same fucking people.
So my point is very simple. They were expelled from their homes because of anti-Semitism.
Ethan, you used Egypt as an
example.
example.
Sorry, what is wrong about that? What is wrong with what I just said? They were expelled.
Were literally controlled
Hasan, please,
by
you've got to
English
fucking
and
answer a
French,
question.
by the English and French colonial occupations.
Expelled.
What are you talking about?
They were expelled because of anti-Semitism. What did I say wrong?
Oh my God.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Algeria was under French occupation. It is the design where the French occupied Algeria did not squash the attempts of expelling Jews. I'm not saying that there wasn't actually
most Algerians were French citizens and went to France.
Caused Jews to feel unsafe, Ethan.
95% of Algeria's 140,000 Jewish population.
Individual, often sometimes Western power.
Yeah, and I mean this point. It was undeniably under this rule. It was under French rule, French colonial rule. The French, the people imprisoning and massacring. Also, my dear friend Emily mentioned to me Italian. I don't know if my internet's being a dog shit, but my friend Emily mentioned to me, she mentioned to me in Libya, there was a case of apparently the Italians had concentration camps there for Jews. Here we go. Even fucking Wikipedia states this. The situation for Jews was generally good, but in late 1939, the fascist Italian regime began passing anti-Semitic laws. As a result of these laws, Jews were fired from government jobs, some were dismissed from government schools, and their citizenship papers were stamped with the words Jewish race.
And what they allowed in those countries on the Palestinian plight when you make this comparison. That's what I'm saying.
Is it anti-Semitic for Jewish people to get kicked out of their home?
Right? The Turkish, the Ottoman Empire and the forces and the Ottoman genocide that they conducted, a mass extermination campaign, is because other fucking random countries where Armenians were...
Iraq happened after independence and as a
result. Turks were getting dispelled in other countries.
The program happened as a direct
that's the way that it was taught in the past. That it was a necessary voluntary migration.
By the way, did you... Oh my God, bro. Did you say Anne Frank died before she could resist? I don't know if that was a fever dream.
Wait, I'm saying that, like, would you have an issue with Anne Frank if she...
Also, by the way, what Anne Frank did is resistance. Anne Frank wrote about her life. It is a form of resistance. It is affirming life. Yeah, I know, my PC is going fucking crazy right now. I probably need to do so. I mean, it's just annoying. I need a new processor, I think. But yeah, I actually just really need a fucking new processor. This shit is going crazy. But yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say.
If she actually was able to...
Sorry, I just thought it was an insane thing to say. I'm not trying to litigate it. In Tripoli, anti-Jewish rights broke out amid post-war unrest. Synagogues were burned. Jewish institutions were shut down.
What's your point about Anne Frank? Why are you trying to deflect away from what I'm saying here?
No, I just think that statement was insane. The Six-Day War backlash. In 1967, another Israel victory, Jewish communities got mobbed. 6,000 Jews were evacuated, homes were destroyed, synagogues were burned. In Morocco, 250,000 Jews were expelled. Anti-Jewish riots broke out in 1948. You'll notice most of these pogroms are happening in 1948 as a direct result of the war.
No. I've done the mute. Oh no. I said shout out to Emily if any of you are familiar with the Twitch stream. She's a real OG. But yeah, like just look at this. Like the experience of Jewish people in the Middle East had been getting more and more difficult. But it also got worse and worse because of Italian rule there and things like that, you know. During the period of European rule in Libya from 1911 to 1951, most of the Libyan Jews lived in the northern regions. This was under British rule. They just did not give a fuck. These are literally the allies of the Nazis, but of course people don't care.
The Arabs turned on their Jewish populace out of anti-Semitism. Period. Point blank. June 7 to 8, 1948. In northeastern Morocco, following the
Ethan's really turned into this guy.
But I trust the plan. So I'ma defend it as long as I can. These Arabs are racist. It's not a wall, it's a quarantine shit, it's contagious.
Them Arabs is racist.
Declaration of State of Independence of the State of Israel on May 14, 1948. Anti-Jewish riots erupted in the town of Jarada. These towns were significant transit points for Moroccan Jews seeking to immigrate. 47 Jews were killed, many were injured. Jewish homes and businesses were looted and destroyed. In 1950, 1960, harassment and immigration. The year following 1948 riot, Moroccan Jews faced increased pressure. These factors contributed to a significant immigration of Jews from Morocco. Immigration to Israel was banned in 1959, but before that, 274,000 Moroccan Jews immigrated primarily to Israel. Yemen and Aden.
Remember when you said you weren't a Zionist?
50,000.
Remember when you said you weren't a Zionist? These are direct Zionist talking points.
This is historical facts, literally spread by your very own Avi Schleim, who, if I'm quoting back to you, said we didn't leave because we were Zionists. We did not leave because we were Zionists. We left because we were afraid.
Ethan, that's the difference. If you asked Avi Schleim,
town of Giardia? Is that what you're saying? By the way, actually, when I went on holidays, so when Bad Empanada was saying that Giardia was an undiscovered new parasite to humanity, I actually have some interaction with Giardia, because when I was in Tajikistan, they tell you don't drink the water because the water there has Giardia in it. So perhaps there was just a holiday perhaps his dog had maybe been to Tajikistan. We'll never know.
Whether it is comparable to say the Nakba and the 900,000 Jews that left
I'm not defending
from
the Nakba.
Separate countries, he would laugh at you.
Your failure to acknowledge the trauma of both groups is the reason why you are a radical fucking propagandist liar.
Also, by the way, comparing the experience of Jewish people who went to Palestine, it depends on which sort of Jewish people who went, because so it tends to be that Iraqi Jewish people are more overrepresented amongst Mizrahis in like the upper classes of Israeli society, and like people like Ethiopian Jews are less represented because obviously their closer proximity to blackness is not very much liked within a racist settler colonial society. Sorry, and so like when you're bringing this up, why are you bringing it up? You're bringing it up to diminish the significance of the Nakba, basically.
Both trauma needs to be acknowledged by both groups. There's two things that need to be true for this ever to be resolved peacefully.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Palestinian self-determination and Israel's right to have secure borders. As long as you...
Israel's right to have secure borders. What? I love the leap from acknowledge the trauma to Israel needs secure borders because them Arabs is racist. Like, it's insane. It's what a leap. I mean, it's kind of impressive to go from those two bits from one to another. Why are you saying Gila is literal? What are you saying about Gila being Iraqi? I mean, it's great, okay. But like, just the leap from those 2 points to go to like, oh well, you know, this means that Israel needs secure borders. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Israel wouldn't need secure borders if it wasn't a fucking settler colony that expelled Palestinians. Palestinians have always resisted it because they want to go home.
Ignore that. Right. There will always be war. Palestinians will always die, and you will continue to make money from it. Operation Magic Carpet.
It's also so sadistic to say that Hasan makes money from, you know, talking about Palestine. Like, I'm going to be honest, like, people always say this to me, and yeah, I have made money and I'm making a fucking career out of it, but at the same time, what I will say is, if I had fucked this up, I have fucked pretty much any chance of getting a job opportunity at certain places because I have spoken unequivocally in support of Palestine.
Jews were secretly airlifted to Israel due to rising hostility.
It's so interesting because
50,000 were relocated to Tunisia.
130,000 after the PLO did recognize that, and they wanted those countries to actually do a right to return for all Jews. Why did Israel stop that from happening, Ethan? Don't you think that Zionism is the problem here?
Of course. Because also, by the way, by saying that Israel needs secure borders, what you are refusing to recognize and contend with is that Zionism is a settler colonial project that is premised on the expulsion of Palestinian people. It is a project which has nothing to do with Jewish safety, with any of these things. People like Tom Segev readily admit this kind of stuff, that it has ultimately failed as this kind of project. Ethan even admitted it when he said his kids wouldn't go there. But, sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought. Let me just go back so I can just pull it back.
Who said?
Left
I'm not defending
from
the Nakba.
Separate countries, he would laugh at you.
Your failure to acknowledge the trauma of both groups is the reason why you are a radical fucking propagandist liar. Both trauma needs to be acknowledged by both groups. There's two things that need to be true for this ever to be resolved peacefully.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Palestinian self-determination and the Israelis' right to have secure borders. As long as you ignore that, there will always be war. Palestinians will always die, and you will continue to make money from it.
Yeah, the reason Palestinians die is because Israel wants to take their land and refuses to give Palestinians any kind of equitable settlement, like any kind of equitable thing, refuses to even give the Palestinians the most basic thing. Yasser Arafat said this over and over again. And by the way, you know when people bring up the election of Hamas, one of the most interesting things is Hamas could have never been elected. Hamas, I don't know what I'm saying, Hamas. Hamas could have never been elected, by the way. There's a really easy way that Hamas could have never been elected. In the early 2000s, Yasser Arafat kept asking Bill Clinton and also the Israelis, he said, let me hold an election for all of Palestine. Let me hold an election for the Gaza Strip, and let me also do it for the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Well, I think he wouldn't have been allowed to do it in East Jerusalem because Israel didn't want to give it up. Anyway, Yasser Arafat asked for this. He was not allowed to do it. Notice how it was after he was dead that the elections were held. And also, something that really annoys me about the CPS stuff too is that Ethan is literally being sued by a billionaire and someone for wrongful termination, but it must have been any streamer he doesn't like. I mean, he also just blames lots of people. He's blamed Bad Empanada, he's blamed Denims, and all of these things.
Magic carpet. Jews were secretly airlifted to Israel due to rising hostility.
It's so interesting because
50,000 were relocated to Tunisia. 130,000 after
the PLO did recognize that, and they wanted those countries to actually do a right to return for all Jews. Why did Israel stop that from happening, Ethan? Don't you think that Zionism is the problem here?
Avi Schleim
what happened? They didn't fucking send you that clip? They didn't.
Zionism is, of course, the problem here. He is completely correct.
Send you that piece of information. So the PLO, Yasser Arafat, the people that don't care about Jewish plight, actually did see wrongdoing.
The guy who oversaw the second Intifada? What the fuck are you on about?
That's the comment that fucking annoyed me. Fuck off. Fuck off. Yasser Arafat literally denounced armed struggle. Yasser Arafat was over and over again willing to capitulate to Israel. Now, many people would say that he has tarnished his image by this collaboration with Israel, accepting a two-state solution, recognizing Israel's right to exist. And what the fuck did he get in return for turning the Palestinian Authority? Right, in fact, I'm going to go through my Google Docs on this. Hold on. Right, so this is by Ala Tatir, and this is the Palestinian Authority Security Forces. Whose security? Blah, 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 blah. So, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it was corrupt as shit when he first established it, but this whole thing was just like, it's actually so funny how corrupt it was. The PA Security Forces, this is actually just later on, this isn't the stuff I wanted about Arafat, hold on. But basically, anyway, the PA are just collaborators with Israel and they do fucking nothing. The Second Intifada was an anti-colonial uprising. Yes, Jewish people were killed, but far more Palestinians were killed. And just to bring it up and say, the man who oversaw the Second Intifada, when Israelis have elected over and over again... Yitzhak Rabin, Israel's allegedly peace-loving prime minister who people still hold up as an example, oversaw the breaking of bones of non-violent Palestinians. The Second Intifada became far more violent because as a result of the failure of the First Intifada, a means of non-violent resistance, and even then over and over again, Palestinians predominantly used non-violence. The First Intifada was so disciplined in terms of its use of non-violence. One of the things that idiots like to bring up is they're like, yeah, they killed loads of collaborators. Yeah, they did. They killed a lot of fucking collaborators. They killed, predominantly the people killed by Palestinians were other Palestinians who they accused of collaborating with Israel. Many wrongly, and it's not a great thing, but just when you sit here over and over again and just talk about like, oh, Yasser Arafat oversaw this and did that, I don't give a fuck. Look at what Israel done. I think criticize Yasser Arafat for so much, but it's just ridiculous.
Right to return if they wanted to do so into their nation of origin. As a matter of fact,
I'm talking about the flights, bro. You deny the flight of Middle Eastern Jews. No, you deny the flight. You deny the trauma of
He's not denying it.
Middle Eastern Jews. You absolutely deny the trauma. No, you deny that they left. You've tried to say that they left by choice. That is a gross historical inaccuracy.
Left by choice. That is true.
Yes, some did. Of the 900,000, the vast majority left because they were afraid.
Ethan,
because they were being discriminated against. That is a historical fact.
Have you ever actually listened to a clip of me talking about this? What? Oh my God, you have no idea what my perspective on this is. You're just fucking yelling at nothing.
Well, what are you doing right now? What are you wasting time for, buddy?
This is the reason why you're repeating.
No, I have heard you talk about it time and time again.
Actually believe,
bro. You are continually not acknowledging the trauma of Middle Eastern Jews. You characterize it like they left. Yes, I've seen it.
Anything that's not 30 seconds long from me?
That's so ironic that you're saying that as you misquote Avi Shlaim, who said he fled because he was afraid and not because of Zion. Here's the clip. Here's the clip.
He's trying to get a gotcha here so he can fucking farm a clip. But everyone's still gonna think you're a fucking loser, dude. I'm sorry. Just shut up and listen if you want to actually hear my perspective.
I'm shutting up and listening to you.
Okay, thank you.
For the Iraqi Jews. Because when anti-Semitism increases in the West, Israel sees that as a complementary tool to its Zionist project, the Zionist ambition of bringing either all Jews to Israel, or at least make Jews in the Western world that are outside of Israel, Jews in diaspora, support Israel. Because it gives...
It's also mad how like wild Ethan was going with his mouse here. This is also a different clip.
Additional credence to the argument. It gives additional credence to the argument that no Jew is ever safe if there is no Jewish state. That is the underpinning of the Zionist project in general.
Why did you not mention the anti-Semitism? You exclusively talk about Zionism.
What the fuck is he talking about? Like, I don't understand. That clip it just has nothing to do with this context of what he's saying.
And being the reason for forcing them out. Why do you deny that they were expelled by force, the vast majority of them?
Ethan, if you think that that is the entirety of my perspective on this matter,
illuminate me.
You please need to stop talking and listen to the amount of times that I've talked about this. Okay?
Oh, just explain yourself.
I'm trying, but you keep.
I just watched a clip of you being pretty dismissive about the flight. And by the way, you've done it this whole time. You say that Zionism was the main
about
force.
The aspect that this is beneficial to the Zionist project across the board, because Israel wants all Jews to be constantly fucking terrified in any other country that's not Israel, so that they can actually go and either support Israel if they're not in Israel, or just move to Israel. That is the entire.
There's also hold on. Right, this is from an Israeli Jewish person, Boaz Evron. The Holocaust was used as a powerful tool to police by the Israeli and Jewish leadership abroad to organize and to police the Jewish community in the diaspora, first and foremost in the US. This was done by exploiting and cultivating a guilt feeling of US Jews for not having done more to prevent the Holocaust, as well as the insecurity some have regarding the status of Jews in American society. This is literally what Meir Kahane did, by the way. He used the Holocaust as a means to basically say, you all have to come to Israel and we need to be really violent against Palestinians so this doesn't happen again.
Higher point. That is what Jabotinsky wanted, that is what Herzl wanted, and that is precisely what Benjamin Netanyahu wants as well. So in terms of my explanation, or what I come across as dismissive, is precisely the role that Israel itself played in this process.
Which was
a
minuscule.
mutually beneficial relationship.
There's also a quote allegedly in one of Herzl's diaries that is something like, there's something that's like, what if I were to tell you that anti-Semitism were not all bad? Yeah, Ohana Joe, you know what, like, if you're celebrating someone who advocated for the extermination of all Palestinians, I'm sorry, you are going to be banned forever.
Minuscule. Minuscule. What you fail to acknowledge is that the Jews were forced to become Zionists, not by choice, but by necessity, because the Arab countries turned on them after the war and forced them to go to the only state that they could go to.
For Israel to exist.
It wasn't the only state that they could go to. 300,000 went to America.
Which is what your position is, right?
No, it's not about what was allowed or not. The Arabs created 1 million Zionists because they're anti-Semitic after the war of 19...
Hold on, we just need to hear something again.
These Arabs are racist. It's not a wall, it's a quarantine shit, it's contagious. It's not a genocide, it's a vaccine, it's containment, yeah.
1948 and fucking the rise of Arab nationalism. Do you deny that?
You brought up Morocco.
You deny what I just said.
Wait, say it again.
Do you deny what I just said?
Wait, say it again. I wasn't listening.
900,000 Jews, approximately 700 to 900,000, were forced to become Zionists, not by choice, but because they were forced out. The vast majority went to it.
The Arabs didn't create Zionists. The Zionist project created Zionists by establishing a settler colony in the Middle East and offering Jewish people and telling them, hey, you're going to be safe here.
Arabs. The anti-Semitic Arabs.
There you go.
What?
The anti-Semitic Arabs.
Yeah, there you go. What? That's my point. Are you okay?
My case.
Okay, well, I mean,
no, you're too fucking delusional to realize what kind of racist nonsense you're fucking chirping on. That was my entire point.
It's historic. I mean, it's historical. You don't know anything of what you're talking about. Avi Schleim, once again, because you don't want to contend, you like to fuse him when it's convenient. He left not because they were Zionists. They left because they were afraid.
Arabs. What was Avi Schleim, by the way?
Yeah, he was an Arab Jew. They didn't see him that way. They kicked his ass out. I'm not saying fucking Arabs. There's a reason for it. There was a rise in Arab nationalism following the 1948 war. They blamed their own Jewish populace for what Israel did. That's anti-Semitism. They had nothing to do. Do you think the Iraqi Jews left their 2,000-year-old communities, left their businesses, left their houses because they wanted to go to Israel? Are you fucking mad?
I really don't understand the sort of crux that he's saying here. And also, many of them, when they had their, as I've previously noted, many of them, as they had their experience, it reminds me of Callum's Corner if he was far right. What was I saying? I've kind of forgotten. Oh, as I've spoken about over and over again, their experience in Israel didn't necessarily turn them into Zionists. It was just they went. There's a very interesting video. I wonder if I can find it. No, I won't be able to find it.
Remember a while back I tweeted and you got really mad when I said that there's a double standard between Islamophobia and anti-Semitism?
There's absolutely a double standard, and you exhibit it,
you're participating in it right now without even recognizing that you're doing so.
It's historical. I mean, I'm just telling you literally what happened.
Racism. All Arabs are not
They were
responsible.
racist. Do people never get racist? Do people never be... I'm explaining why. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just explaining why. After the 1948 war, the rise of Arab nationalism created a lot of anti-Semitism, and that's why the vast majority of the Jews, the 900,000 of them, were forced to immigrate. That's a fact. That's a historical fact.
Ethan, I'm sorry to say this, and I don't know if your audience gets this as well, but what you just said earlier is not an accurate reflection of history. It's just pure racism.
How do you know that?
You are shifting the blame over to the entire Arabs.
It absolutely was the blame of the Arabs.
Every single one of these Arab countries.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very good point. Just talking about how he's blaming all Arabs for this, when there are some people, some people who were definitely anti-Semitic, but there is context to it, you know.
Absolutely. Their own version of pan-Arabic nationalism. Half of them were already still controlled, by the way, by fucking European colonial powers like Vichy France.
That was literally just in Tunisia.
Expulsion program, and you're
just in Tunisia.
You're using that as a similarity between the planned expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians.
Yeah, I mean, the details are different, but you're denying. Like, once again, you're still not disproving me. What did I say that is hilariously racist and wrong?
Anti-German racism.
He said more Arabs were expelled. He said more Arabs were expelled. More Jewish people were expelled.
Don't make an analogy. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Anti-German racism.
I don't need an analogy. I need facts from you. Why am I wrong?
It's as though you are pointing to anti-German racism happening during the fucking German conquest.
Tell me a fact, right, that proves that I'm wrong. That the vast majority...
2 million German people were displaced after the Second World War. Should we acknowledge their plight? It was actually a very atrocious thing. Like, an obscene amount of Germans died. But, like, they'd gone to settle in other people's lands. So, you know... It's kind of like you're telling me, and I'm not making the illusion here, but I'm just saying as in, like, you're talking about this here and being like, oh, you've got to acknowledge this trauma. There are certain contexts in which we can acknowledge a thing that happened, but it doesn't really matter. I suppose that's actually not a very good comparison. But what I'm saying here is that, like, basically, it's just ridiculous what Ethan is doing.
Majority of Jews fled because of anti-Semitism in the Arab states.
It's not what you're saying.
So I didn't say anything wrong.
It's the
I didn't say anything wrong.
It's
I didn't say anything wrong, but I'm racist.
It's the idea that all Arabs are fucking one-minded and not and have something to do with Palestinians in general. Yes, I never said that there wasn't any fucking anti-Jewish sentiment. That also...
Were the vast majority of Jews, did they leave because of anti-Semitism or Zionism?
The vast majority of Jews, regardless of whether or not they left for anti-Semitism or Zionist purposes, is not comparable to the Nakba.
You're not answering.
Also, the Nakba exacerbated tensions within the Middle East. They exacerbated tensions within the Middle East.
It is not comparable to the Nakba.
Do I support a two-state solution or Palestine being the ruler of all? I support a one-state solution in which all Palestinians are allowed to return to where they're originally from and where they were expelled from.
I don't care. That's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm not comparing them. And by the way,
you made that comparison to make it seem as though it was a much larger crime.
Well, because people like you ignore the trauma of the fact that you want to tell that people in Israel to go back to where they came from. This is where they're from. They were forced to go to Israel.
They could right now. They could go tomorrow.
This is also categorically they are from other parts of the Middle East.
Oh,
really? The Iraqi Jews can go back to their home tomorrow. The Egyptian Jews can go back to their homes tomorrow.
Absolutely.
That is insane. You are fucking out of your mind. Okay, how? Tell me how. How do the Jews go back to their...
And I understand why they wouldn't want to because America fucking...
No, they want to.
But yes,
why would... How?
What do you mean
how? Would they go back and reclaim their lost assets, their lost property?
There were literally different schemes designed at this...
And by the way, how did they become citizens?
At different points throughout this 76-year-long drawn.
It's also really difficult to analyze this because Hasan is just saying like nothing problematic at all, but Ethan is just talking over him and unwilling to confront what Hasan is actually trying to say, which is, hey, stop comparing these two fucking things because it is materially different, and you're also ignoring the consequences of what Israel does in Palestine in comparison to what Israel to do with the rise of anti-Semitism and stuff, and also the context of who was ruling over these countries and the experience of these people, and why they had such a deep disdain for colonialism, which people associated Jewish people with it, and it isn't a justification for what happened. Are ethnostates bad? Yeah, I mean, it is a great question. Thank you, Balthasar.
Out apartheid structure, there were numerous instances where, yes, there was a right to return offered to Jews and even restitution for the homes that they lost in the process. So yes, you're wrong. You simply don't know the facts. You are wrong.
You won't say what fact I'm getting wrong.
I just told you.
Did the vast majority of Jews immigrate to Israel following 1948 because of Zionism or because of anti-Semitism?
No. Don't run away from this point.
Answer the fucking question.
I don't discount anti-Semitism as a direct consequence of pan-Arabic nationalism that took place in numerous countries. I have issues with your comparison. Okay?
Who's comparing? You keep saying that. I'm not talking about I'm talking about your
there were more Arabs expelled. This is the whole point.
Willingness to recognize Jewish plight.
You brought that up deliberately to say more Jews were displaced than Palestinians were.
I think that's an interesting fact that you clearly don't fucking ever want to mention because it really messes up your beautiful little narrative.
So why did you?
It messes up your beautiful little narrative. So weird, isn't it?
Why did you bring that fact up right after you talked about the 1948 war?
Because the point is that two people were traumatized. There was two people that were traumatized. There was two people that were displaced unfairly. It was the Palestinians and it was the...
But what was the experience after each of being displaced? I mean, actually, you know what? The Jewish people within Israel were treated like dog shit by the Israeli government, but still they were allowed to go and settle in places. There are some really bizarre examples, actually, of this, by the way. There's an example where Ben Gurion literally just gave houses to... hold on, I'll pull it up. God, I think it's takeoff time, lads. The PC is struggling. Here we go. This is just Tom Segev talking about it. Another one of Segev's eye-opening books is 1949. He uncovered Jewish agency documents that for the first time revealed that discriminatory policies used against new immigrants from the Middle East and North Africa while favouring newcomers from Poland. The Jewish agency executive had come to the conclusion that the Polish Jews deserve better... this is just Tom Segev talking. Sorry, my stream crashed and I thought I got banned for a second there. I was having a bit of a worry there. Mizrahim, Jews of Middle Eastern and North African origin who had arrived a bit later. There are many respectable people among them, it was said, by way of explanation. To spare them the hardship of the transit camps, it was proposed to house them in hotels at the same time. Quite a lot of these Mizrahi people's trauma also came from fucking Israel, by the way. You know? A lot of trauma came from their experience in Israel and how they were treated once they got there as well, to add to that.
Middle Eastern Jews, they both have trauma. You fail to acknowledge one group. You shit on the other one. I, unlike you, acknowledge both groups. I acknowledge both groups. You acknowledge one.
Yeah, also, by the way, you are all lives mattering this. Look, Jewish settlers were brought over to Palestine to settle in Palestine, truth be told. I think that there is actually a small problem of settler colonialism here, which is that in settler colonialism, according to many of the people, black slaves were analogous to Mizrahi people. Mizrahi people were brought over for cheap labour, but comparing them to sort of black slaves who were brought over to fulfil a part of colonization is... it's a pretty shaky one, and I think I'd maybe question settler colonialism for doing that. And also, by the way, it wasn't just Yemeni babies that were stolen. Apparently, and I cannot remember where I read this, apparently Torah scrolls and other belongings were just stolen from Yemeni Jewish people and then just sold in Israel. It's insane.
What?
That's what you're doing. And you're also attributing.
How? How am I doing that?
You're attributing anti-Semitic violence in different countries to...
At the same time, following 1948, pan-Arab nationalism. You said that yourself.
Yes.
These 5 Arab countries were defeated in 1948, and they turned super fucking anti-Semitic as a result. They became ultra-nationalist Arabs. It became popular. As Israel declared independence, they said, fuck no, we don't want this country here. And yeah, they all...
Is it really surprising that people felt very negatively about a settler colony that had already dispossessed and marginalized the Palestinians, had expelled 750,000 of them, Freudian slip there, because Israel is now trying to expel 2 million people again. It is literally like, there was this settler colonial state set up in the Middle East that always planned to do extermination of the Palestinian people, their indigenous society, and it is just utterly ridiculous.
became anti-Semitic. That's a historical
fact. You also failed to recognize that Iraqi Jews have been allowed to return to Iraq, and there have been numerous instances where Jews were given an opportunity to return.
How many Jews live in Iraq?
But you don't
want. How many Jews live in Iraq?
What?
How many Jewish people
right now? But they can.
How many Jews live in the Middle East?
Jewish people also couldn't live in these places, in part because, as well, there's like a lot of militant movements who have taken over, who hold very, very aggressive interpretations of Islam that would definitely target Jewish people. But a lot of this reason is due to destabilization by Western countries
outside of Israel.
Why would it? Why do you think
virtually none? Where'd they go? If it was so fucking great for them,
not want to go to Iraq. You think right now?
Where did they go? Well, I mean, also, hold on. Oh, fuck me! I keep closing tabs I need open because I'm worried my PC is going to explode. Right, at the age of 80, I'm starting to think that maybe it wasn't right from the outset, the whole Zionist thing. Most Israelis are refugees or the offspring of refugees, not Zionists, but refugees. So you'll say, well, that justifies Zionism because this was a land where they were able to come to. But we need to remember that the majority of the Holocaust survivors did not come to live in Israel, and that the majority of Jews in the world are not coming to Israel. They can, but they don't want to live in a country. So Zionism is not such a great success story. It also doesn't provide security to its safer... it's safer for Jews to live outside of the country. That's an eminent Israeli historian talking about it.
Zero Jews, almost virtually zero Jews live outside of Israel in the Middle East. Why is that? You don't think that none of them wanted to fucking stay at home?
I don't know. Maybe because there was a religious ethno-supremacist state that was...
Oh, sorry, yeah, this is Tom Segev. Tom Segev is this is Tom Segev from this Haaretz article, which I will link. You can archive PH it if you need. There's archived versions of it. Tom Segev is like an eminent Israeli historian. He's talking here at the age of 80 about why he thinks Zionism is failure, and he's also talking about his dad and how he was told his dad was killed by an Arab, basically.
Backed by a lot of Western states.
Oh, and his dad actually fell off a drain pipe. It's quite an interesting article.
That's the insane
stabilizer in the fucking region with mass migration happening, especially, of course, mass migration happening, and then in the aftermath of the Holocaust with a shit ton more refugees coming in, was a much more viable state for them.
Here's the
viability of said state, of course, is partially a consequence of the other countries and the hostility that people felt towards Jewish people.
You don't want to blame the Arabs.
This in and of itself is the heart.
You want to blame Zionists, you don't want to blame the Arabs. There is a settler colonial state in the Middle East.
The problem, because people conflate Zionism with Judaism, and you do that.
That's what the Arabs did when they kicked them all out.
I know, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's
and so why are you blaming the Zionists and not the fucking Arabs for being?
Yeah, I should be with Hasan about actually maybe 9 p.m., 9:15.
ISIS. Why do you deny the Jewish trauma? Arabs. Why do you deny the 900,000 traumatized?
So I may have to go, but I'm fine with not finishing the end because I'll just go and talk to Hasan.
Jews that were for, including, by the way, what you keep ignoring, Avi Schleim. Avi Schleim said we didn't leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were afraid. Are you hearing that?
Ethan, do you blame the English for the Holocaust?
No.
Who did the Holocaust, Ethan?
Just fucking make your point. I'm not playing this.
Come on, who did the Holocaust? Just say it.
Make your point, dude. I'm not a fucking.
Why not? I'm asking you a question. It's a super simple question.
Thank you very much, Con. I'll use that to buy some kind of book at some point.
Avi Schleim said we left Iraq
I asked you who was responsible for the Holocaust.
Why would I answer such a stupid rhetorical question? Just make your point.
What, you know the answer to this, right? Like, come on, what are you looking at on your fucking computer? Like, which country is responsible for the Holocaust?
Anytime you want to make your point. What? I would appreciate.
What is happening? Dude, when you already, okay, whatever. You said already.
I would appreciate if you would just listen to one thing I would say.
It wasn't the English, right? It's not the responsibility of the British that the Holocaust happened, right? You understand that. You recognize that. Right?
Well, I would say the nation most directly guilty for the Holocaust was probably Nazi Germany.
Okay. Did you just read that from your laptop?
Oh, I'm eloquent. I'm like your dumbass.
I mean, yes, it is. Okay. Notice how you don't actually put every single fucking country. There was plenty of anti-Semitism in England too. Notice how you don't fucking say all of Europe is responsible for the Holocaust.
Was there concentration camps?
I mean, I have basically been saying this, but I do think all of Europe bears some responsibility in terms of what happened. But also, yeah, I mean, you can't say that every single European did, but also there was parts of like anti-Semitism. I guess actually I've been speaking more generally about anti-Semitism as opposed to the Holocaust.
You say all Arabs?
Okay.
The point is,
there's no Jews in the Middle East. None. Can you listen? One thing. I have one thing important to say that I really want you just to listen to. Okay. Avi Schleim said they did not leave Iraq because they were Zionists. They left because they were afraid.
Yes.
You are denying his family's trauma. You are blaming his family's trauma on Zionists.
Will you talk to him about this?
Sure. I mean, he's going to. I read it from his fucking book.
If you're so confident in all of this, okay, that would be great. All right, perfect. Okay.
So, listen,
no, you should.
I'll debate all these people instead of you. I have time. Unfortunately, like I said, it's getting late, so I just want to make one last point before we go, which is that always remember, Hasan, that when people criticize me, I watch it on my stream by myself live, unlike a bitch-made coward like yourself who needs someone to hold your hand and make all the excuses in the world to avoid any single criticism, any response. You, my friend, are a coward.
It's also just very pathetic, isn't it?
And I am the fucking legend that responded to it.
To be fair, he is right. Thank you, Ethan Klein. You are the rent payer. You are the legend. He is the legend.
With zero hesitation. You know why? Because I'm not a liar. I don't have to think about the shit that I say and justify it. You lied.
I think maybe if Ethan thought about the things he said, he would probably be doing better than being criticized by everyone.
That's why you can't do it, because you'll get caught in those lies.
5-hour endeavor made you look good, then congratulations, okay?
You don't think it was good that you don't think that it was a supreme confidence that I responded to it immediately, live?
Ethan, it took you 4 months to actually entertain the notion of having a conversation.
I said anytime you want, dipshit.
Videos. I don't know why you think that I'm afraid of
watching.
You
watch 11 hate videos on your channel. 11 hate videos. I've watched zero about you, Hasan. Do you want to actually discuss who's the coward?
Videos, dumbass! Your fucking community is the hate community. Why the fuck would you have to watch hate videos or whatever? You are the one who is doing it.
Just remember, when criticism comes, I confront it.
Thank you for backtracking
when
on
criticism comes to you,
maybe we should go through the context.
He hasn't watched a single person's video about him, and he now says he agrees with everything that people said in those videos, including his wife being a terrorist. Fear can have many causes, not just one actor. I mean, if you're talking about the context of Jewish people leaving, yeah. And also, just by the way, I think it's literally, I guess this is kind of like the level of discussion that Palestine has reached. People want to compare the plight of Jewish people, and it's just, the plight of like Jewish people in the Middle East. Yeah, talk about it. It's 100% something worth talking about, the experience of Mizrahi people, what their life is like in Israel, how they've formed like a subclass that predominantly live in places called development towns, how certain groups of them are treated very differently to other different groups of them. And I think that kind of in many different ways, this is like the poverty of all of this social media version of Palestine and Israel, where Palestine and Israel is just reduced into gotchas and talking points for people like Ethan, where it's like, well, you don't care about this thing. And it's like, well, you are not talking about Palestine here. You are talking about the wider Middle East and going, them Arabs is racist.
Puke one more time so we can continue.
If you want to watch
this conversation later, okay?
If you want to watch
all the other dumb shit that you said in it. It's not because I'm afraid. It's because you were crying because you.
No, it is definitely because you're afraid. Why is it you didn't pull? Why is it you love Banana Banana, but when he makes a video criticizing you, you say I'm not watching that?
Because I think it's. You want to know why? Because I think it's fucking unproductive to literally
watch criticism of me. You fucking coward.
Yeah, because you're fucking presenting yourself and developing an audience that is literally, without even realizing it, because they are only drama obsessed. Without realizing it, they're literally positioning themselves to be pro-Israel, to repeat pro-Israel talking points. Yes, that is the only reason why I started talking about you. Because you went on a fucking deplatforming campaign.
Why did you not watch Banana Banana's video about you? You watched all of it.
You did 110 Instagram stories on me, Ethan. Since January 31st, 2025.
You're changing the.
It was so unhinged that you didn't even recognize who you have become.
You need to at least admit that it's reciprocal. I am not. You made 24 hours of nonstop content, bro. 24 hours in the last 2 months.
On your own personal Instagram
We've talked about each other equally as much, bro.
January 31st, 2025, 110 stories. It was so insane. You didn't believe it. You don't even believe your own mania.
Hasan,
please, for the love of God.
Hasan, you talked about me 24 minutes a day, every day, 7 days a week for 60 days.
Yes,
does that sound fucking reasonable?
You presented yourself as a fucking significant force trying to literally deplatform pro-Palestinian voices.
How much time do you think it makes an Instagram story?
That's why. And that's you literally, your own.
Why didn't you watch a bad Empanada video about yourself?
Your own producers were begging you to stop talking about me. So much so that you had to set up a separate war room where you only talked about me.
What?
And that's what happened, right? Because you couldn't shout about it. Your fans were fucking going, Ethan, we get it. He sucks.
My fans are fine, bro. Don't worry about my fans.
The entire time you framed this as though it's petty fucking drama.
It's not petty drama. You are deeply anti-Semitic, hateful fucking propagandist liar.
Yeah, Hasan please read the article about the Baghdad bombing. I know exactly what the article is. Ethan Klein is the John Fetterman of YouTube. He's a Zionist. No one is the John Fetterman of YouTube. There is no one who had like a serious brain trauma and then became like a really horrible person in that way.
And it only took you now to fucking openly say 10 toes down that it is a genocide, but also you don't want anyone to fucking resist.
I've said that consistently for years, liar.
Ethan, you don't want anyone to resist against genocide. It is a fucking untenable position.
Oh, you mean kidnapping civilians? You're so pathetic, bro.
And you constantly keep smearing me as a fucking anti-Semite at a time when the Trump administration, is blackbagging people.
Yeah, that's bad happening. Don't call me out.
How do you not
bad happening? Don't call me out. That's what you're doing.
Dude, how do you not understand?
Why didn't you watch the bad Empanada video?
You are playing a formative role when you don't talk about Mahmoud Khalil. You're playing a formative role when you don't talk about the mass starvation of Gazans.
By the way, I advocated for Kamala to get elected. What'd you do? I told people to vote for Kamala. What'd you do?
Oh.
No, seriously.
Oh,
Also, just like, who cares who you told people to vote? Just let people make their own fucking choices. That's not the point of having a platform. You don't just go vote Kamala because Trump's bad. Do what you want. Tell people, if you are telling your community how to vote, they are not making an informed choice about what they are actually voting for. Are they? Like, Trump would speak negatively about Kamala and, like, her support for for Israel, and he would also speak very negatively about fucking Trump. Just going out and telling them to vote is, I don't know. Like, he also says that Biden is awesome, doesn't he? He said that, like, Biden was brilliant for Israel, and there was that article the other day that Biden did fucking nothing to stop the genocide. Nothing, and we all know it.
Congratulations.
Do you think Kamala and Trump would have been equally bad?
I won't change anything from Joe Biden's policies, Harris.
It's not Joe Biden, it's Kamala Harris.
I go to the DNC, but I actually offered some pretty fucking valuable criticism to the Democratic Party that they didn't listen to, unfortunately.
And they kick you out of the DNC?
Valuable criticism, they lost. Why have you lied about me voting for Jill Stein, by the way? Can we talk about that? Why the fuck did you saying I voted for Jill Stein? I have countless hours shitting on Jill Stein. I've told people not to vote for Trump. I've said that Donald Trump is significantly worse than Kamala Harris. And I've also, on top of that, called Jill Stein a grifter over and over and over again. But for some weird reason, despite the fact that I voted live, mind you, you kept lying to the audience.
Jill Stein is actually a Chris Kunstler fan. She follows me on Instagram. She loves what I post. She likes my videos. But I don't really know much about her. As I say, I live in the UK. So I don't really know much. It always tickles me when people pronounce her name as if she's like the koala Pokemon, Kamala. I think it's because it's Kamala, not Kamala. It's Kamala. Kamala? Oh, now you've confused me, mate. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that, Balthazar. Now I'm really confused.
And you kept lying to your audience, and you kept making it seem as though I didn't even fucking vote, or urge people not to vote. There's never been a moment where I said do not vote.
Who did you vote for?
I voted for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
No, I got no problem, but I think there's people in your audience that would.
You don't have a problem with that.
Why didn't you endorse her then?
You're saying I voted for Jill Stein, huh?
I said I think because you didn't say who you voted for.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh,
it's
you
an opinion.
think? Oh, you don't give a fuck, dude. It doesn't matter who I vote for anyway. You're out of your fucking mind.
I feel like if you spend all of your time, like, kind of advocating and talking about the excesses of fascism, like the horrifying rise of Trump and right-wing politics, you know, you're kind of directing your audience in a way anyway.
I did not endorse Kamala Harris. And I will never endorse Kamala Harris. And I did not endorse Joe Biden.
And now Trump's president.
Because you want to know why?
Trump's building the Riviera in Gaza Strip, and guess what? You're fucking...
The Riviera was already being built by Israel. It was already being fucking built. Israel was It's so funny. People say there's a genocide going on, and then like people like Ethan and there's other people who do it. They say that there's a genocide going on without ever engaging with what the word genocide means or any of this stuff. They just say it. What a genocide meant and why we were talking about it was because Israel attempted to wipe away all of historic Palestine in the Gaza Strip. It is attempting to wipe away all of historic Palestine and all of the history of the Palestinian people. I mean, their propaganda is literally about it. But when we are saying, hey, there's a genocide going on in Palestine, this is exactly what it's fucking about. This is exactly what it is about. Israel was wiping away Palestine in the Gaza Strip, and they had no problem with them doing it under the Biden administration. They allowed them to keep on doing it. They allowed them to attack hospitals, destroy healthcare infrastructure, destroy agricultural land, kill experts, kill everything that is needed to sustain life in the Gaza Strip. And yet you sit there and go, well, Trump's building the Riviera. Trump is just reaping the rewards of Biden's policy.
And love that shit because you get to keep making content about it, and you get to keep making videos, and you guarantee there will never be peace there.
No one loves this shit. People act as if this is the way. People act as if people like me love this shit. I do not love this shit. I wish Palestine was free. It would be a lot better than me having something to talk. I would still be able to fucking talk about the history of Palestine. People would fucking care about it, even if that was the case. People cared about what I was saying about Palestine before October the 7th, you know?
Yeah.
I had fucking 70,000 followers on Twitch when Palestine wasn't even... on TikTok when Palestine wasn't even like a major thing that people talked about. Just me talking about history and politics.
As opposed to you. As opposed to you, Ethan. How much content have you made about Donald Trump? How much content have you made about fucking Donald Trump? You literally defended his terrorist regime. What the fuck are you talking about? And then you have to apologize because you're an embarrassing figure. Okay? Listen to me. It is embarrassing that you have tried to make a foray into politics, and all of the producers or all the people that are giving you fucking talking points is not going to make you come across as smart in this process. Please, for your own mental sanity, stop trying to do this. You are basically brain breaking a shit ton of people into idiotic positions. You clearly don't care about people who have actually voted for Donald Trump, considering your allegiance with people who have literally directly voted for Donald Trump.
Who's my allegiance? Who's my allegiance?
What do you mean? You have fucking Trump supporters that you're friends with, like Steiny in general. When I have a conversation.
Healer follows Yosef Haddad on Instagram and loads of other fucking Zionists. He was also sharing fucking Hen Mazik the other day.
With him, I'm actually directly fucking addressing some of the shit that he's saying, like the Nelk boys and whatnot.
Our entire conversation was me arguing with him and telling him why Trump's bad and why transphobia is bad. You are.
You're going out, you're playing poker with people who fucking voted for Donald Trump. You're defending Asmongold and saying Asmongold is not actually Trump-coded, okay? You're doing all this because they don't... Asmongold has been a valuable figure shitting on me this entire time, and that's the only reason why you act like he's not that significant of a force. That's it. You will take help from anyone and everyone, no matter what their background is. You claim to care. You claim to care about rape, and you're hyping up a dude who has a segment on a show called Ultimate Rape Review. The reason why you're hyping up that dude is because you don't give a fuck. All you care about is petty drama. This is your only content. Stop doing petty drama content, shut the fuck up about politics, and get back to goofs and gaffs, and it will be fine. People will forget that you have behaved in this way, but you don't want to do that. It's become a fucking personal agenda for you that people don't like you. It must be.
Oh my god, he actually does host a podcast called
standing, like, he's just, like, pulling them in front. I understand in this picture.
So wait, he has something called Ultimate Rape Review, that fucking guy. Ethan cares more about his personal feelings. Of course he does, and that's why I played that clip from Abdul Razak Takriti. It's all about feelings for Ethan, you know?
Anti-Semitism. No, they don't like you because...
Sorry, my Emily, who is a major help for the stream, is just sending me some things. Also, the same thing happened to Jewish people in Morocco during the World War II under the Vichy French regime. I'm reading a longer paper about it, but it's summarised in this wiki section. The interference of European anti-Semitism in North Africa cannot be understated when analysing anti-Jewish sentiment during... So basically what she's saying is that you cannot talk about this without anti-Jewish interference in the Middle East. Yeah, he has something called Ultimate R-word.
Because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you have to be babied by goddamn producers as a 40-year-old adult. That's the reason why people don't like it. That's it.
Very good, very good. Now, why don't you watch Van Panana's videos about you?
Because he's pro-Palestine, and I don't give a fuck about... Because
he was criticizing you. Oh, you're such a coward, Hasan. It's unbelievable. All right, very good. I'm out of my depth. I shouldn't talk about the...
If you were pro-Palestine, I would never talk about you either. That's the real reason.
Uh-oh. Can you please contend with the Avi Schleim quote that they left not because of Zionism, but because they were afraid?
Dude, come on. Enough. You have Avi Schleim on the show. Talk to him about it, okay? Maybe it'll go down exactly like you thought with Sam Cedar.
I think if anything...
One of the best bits of the Ethan bit is when he goes, that didn't go how I was expecting.
Sam kind of embarrassed himself. I genuinely do. I hate to say it because I like Sam. But like he...
And also, Sam embarrassed himself. Sam did not embarrass himself. Ethan embarrassed himself.
Button when he has like a little oops.
Did I button?
Is actually the one who's talking about Sam Cedar embarrassing himself.
Did I button during that
debate? He lowered
debate?
himself to talk to you man to man and try to.
Which that's what you wanted. That's what you asked for. Why would you want to lower his status? Why did you lower his status?
Be convinced. I didn't realize you were this fucking drama obsessed. You thought
drama obsessed. We had an argument about fucking South Africa apartheid. What's drama about that?
What?
You're fucking dude. Listen, enjoy. It doesn't matter. Just remember. When it comes to criticism, I watch it. You ignore it. It's so important.
It's actually peaceful because you're gonna clip chimp the fucking shit that Lonerbox told you, and then you're
Lonerbox mention. Also, if any Lonerbox fans are watching this, how does it feel that Lonerbox streams regularly for hours upon end and has been for a year, and now he has less viewers than me, and I've been doing this for a very short period. Fuck that guy. Horrible character defending genocide. You know? Like, just a horrible guy, charisma vacuum, who is rude as fuck to me, wouldn't have any serious discussion, so fuck him.
Violent things that the ANC did were in the Truth and Reconciliation Committee attributed to...
Hasan, how many civilians died in 20 years in the ANC, during the ANC's?
It was like 200, I think? Or
less than 100. How many people did Hamas kill on one day? Nelson Mandela, which I'll read you a quote from his trial.
Are you comparing the apartheid structure in South Africa to 76 years of colonial occupation?
Don't you do that all the time?
No, the numbers.
You call it apartheid all the time.
The militancy has gotten far more radical as a direct consequence of Israel becoming far more radical. Because, as I told you, and you seemingly understood when we first had this conversation after October 7, that the maintenance of an apartheid is an inherently violent endeavor. And as a matter of fact, the resistance to said apartheid is only going to get worse and worse as time moves on. This is precisely...
Yeah, also, as I said in my previous one, there is no comparison between what Israel does to the Palestinian people and what South Africa did. South Africa may have had a greater scale. What even was the black population of South Africa 1990s? What actually was the population of South Africa? 39 million at that time. And I mean, yeah, of course they did atrocious things to more people, but what Israel has done is absolutely atrocious.
The reason why the first intifada was fought with stones, little children throwing rocks, and the second intifada, in the aftermath of horrific acts of terror against Palestinians who were at a mosque praying, the second intifada, as a matter of fact, was fought with bombs.
Quote. I'm not just grandstanding. Mandela, from his trial in 1960, said, and I quote, there were 4 forms of violence that were possible. One was sabotage, one was guerrilla warfare, one was terrorism, and then there was open revolution. We chose to adopt the first method as it exhausted it before taking any other decision. In light of our political background, the choice was a logical one. Sabotage did not involve loss of life and offered the best hope for future race relations. Bitterness would be kept minimum, and if a policy bore fruit, democratic government could become a reality. This is what we felt at the time, and this is what we said in our manifesto. We have always sought to achieve liberation without bloodshed and civil clash. We hope, even at this late hour, that our first actions will awaken everyone to the realization that the disastrous situation which the nationalist policy is leading. We hope that we will bring the government and its supporters to their senses before it's too late, so that both the government and its policies can be changed before matters reach the desperate state of war.
Notice how the end part of that is getting ready for rebellion. I feel like given the... Yeah, because the apartheid structure dissolved as a direct consequence of pressure campaigns and also militancy, which Nelson Mandela, not once, but twice, was presented with the option of having a sentence commuted, which he refused to do.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's just so ridiculous.
He said,
on principle, bro. On principle. He said, I will not remain in jail because a prisoner can't negotiate. A prisoner can't decide.
That was the first time.
He said no both times. He refused on principle. Less than 100 people died during the 20-year period. Anyone that attacked civilians, they were disavowed. The ANC repeatedly apologized and disavowed violence against civilians.
When did they do that?
Less than 100 civilians died.
When did they do that?
Hamas killed thousands of...
Khaled, I've also read that. Also, by the way, if you compare how many apparently between, this is according to Wikipedia, where do they get their statistics from? Okay, apparently there were about 21,000 deaths from political violence in South Africa. Israel, there is a smaller population in Palestine of Palestinians, and Israel has killed how many of them since October the 7th, and how many before, during multiple bouts of mass slaughter?
Civilians on one fucking day.
No, 1,000 civilians. The poor civilian Israeli soldiers that died in their military bases. The civilians.
There was like, bro, you're so dumb.
You're so dumb. These numbers
how many civilians died? How many civilians died?
I believe the total number of casualties on October 7th was 1,200, with 800.
Israel is committing a genocide, but please feel bad. Exactly. I'm not so fussed about the feelings of the people who've just killed so many. Feelings matter so much less than the extermination of so many Palestinians.
Being civilians, which is completely unacceptable.
Oh my God, I'm off by 100.
Members.
I was off by 100. Oh my God, dude, I can't believe the historical inaccuracies are idiot.
You're the one who's bringing up numbers here, Ethan. And yes, I do think it's important to recognize something here that you are seemingly failing to recognize. Nelson Mandela was thrown in prison because he went and trained with the FLN in Algeria. The reason why he stayed in fucking prison was because he refused to disavow violence, because he understood that as long as peaceful revolution is impossible, that violent revolution is inevitable, and violent revolution they did do.
You know what's funny?
In terms of
What's his response to the Biden ceasefire response? I didn't actually see it.
Because of the death and destruction on the apartheid structure, by the way, it is incomprehensible to compare that to Israel's violence against the Palestinians. What Israel has done to the Palestinians is far worse. And by the way, that's not my assessment. What Israel has done to the Palestinians for the past 76 years is infinitely worse. And that is not my assessment, by the way. That is the assessment of Mandela. And for all the,
Let's ask someone who lived through apartheid. I'm sure that the vast majority of people who lived through apartheid would say, yeah, never anything was done like what Israel has done to the Gaza Strip. Ever. Never.
That he was able to fucking
you think Mandela said what's happening is worse than what we went through? That's bullshit. Why do we say that?
Why would you say that? Because it's true, Ethan. That's why.
Is Nelson Mandela a Zionist?
Yes, Nelson Mandela. Are you going to say in 1999 he said Israel has a legal right to exist? In that same speech, you're going to
remember that you called this guy a neo-Nazi, not fit to be a dog catcher.
Who? What? Wait, what are you talking about? Whoa, you're jumping off like a...
Also, by the way, this clip is a particularly interesting one to pull up because Ethan thinks this is a massive gotcha. This was a different period of time. This was in the 1990s when the two-state was commonly supported amongst all Palestinians, like Yasser Arafat. Well, it wasn't all Palestinians, but there was a much bigger support for the two-state solution. During the First Intifada in particular, this is exactly what they advocated for over and over again.
Many different points. What?
The right of Israel to exist as a state legally. We have stood quite openly and firmly for the
This is 10 years after Israel recognized, after the PLO recognized it.
right of that state to exist within secured borders.
You disagree with that statement?
Israel has a right to exist, not in the way that currently does.
Within secure borders.
Hold on.
Coward.
Do you know what he says after that clip?
Yeah, that he also thinks that Palestinians also need to be acknowledged. Which, by the way, is my fucking point.
No, not that.
Palestinian liberation and Israeli borders are two sides of the same coin.
He didn't just say Palestinians also need to be acknowledged.
Palestinian liberation and Israeli borders are not in any capacity anywhere near the same two sides of the same coin. At all. Palestinian liberation is far more important. Israelis have secure borders, and all they do is kill Palestinians. That's what secure borders means for Israel. The liberation of Palestinians is the liberation from decades-long apartheid, marginalization, and discrimination.
He says that if peaceful means of coexistence is impossible, then violence is inevitable, Ethan. Why did you clip that out of the...
And Israel is the one who has shown that there will never be peaceful coexistence. How many Palestinians were killed in the West Bank? How fast was the settlement of the West Bank increasing? In fact... This is an article that I showed you a video of me talking about earlier. Israel uses Apache attack helicopter in the West Bank for first time since 2002. 19th of June 2023. Israel was escalating to fuck. Israel is in a constant position of aggression against Palestinians by virtue of settling their land, you know. I'm going on Hasans at actually 9:15, so that's in like... pretty shortly, actually, 30 minutes. So I'll just finish up the last 10 minutes and then
fucking
go.
Clip chimp that you posted, Ethan.
Did you say that clip chimp Nelson Mandela?
Yes, you literally did.
Actually, you know what? I should probably go now and prep for this. So I'm probably going to go. I'm sorry to end it abruptly again. I'll do another stream at some point soon. I hope you all have a lovely rest of the evening, and you can see me on Hasan's stream if you now want it for a little bit. So I'll see you all soon. Sorry to just end it abruptly, but I just looked at the time. So thank you. Thank you for everyone who supported and watched. I'm going on Hasan's stream on Twitch, yeah.